Chapter 201 A Chakra Metal Mine. Fujin looked at Tomatus's back as he analyzed. This definitely doesn't sound like Tomatus. Someone must have given him the information and asked to make me go on a mission. But who? Fujin thought for a bit and concluded. It's either Renjuro or Hiruzen. Most likely the latter. Oh well, this team doesn't do missions continuously. I should still have plenty of time to train. And I can always ask for breaks when I need more time to train. Anyways, I have to give credit to Hiruzen. From the way Tomatus spoke, it looks like he thought that I didn't train. So Hiruzen probably knows that I didn't visit the training ground recently. He probably thought that I had stopped training. Though I am a bit talented, I doubt he has the time to keep tabs on me considering the amount of work this massacre should have put on him. So it's safe to assume that he is looking for everyone who is affected and checking on everyone. Still, this should be a lesson for me. While the decision to only train lightning jutsus wasn't bad, deciding against training in the open raised some suspicion. Had I continued with my morning exercises, Hiruzen might not have paid any attention to me and left me alone. I'll have to keep this in mind when I take any action in the future. Concluding his thoughts, Fujin returned to the basement. He made hand signs. Lightning release electric needle spread jutsu. Lightning appeared on his skin and immediately transformed into small needles. There were around 125 lightning needles on Fujin's body. He made another hand sign. The needles were immediately launched outwards for 20 meters. Fujin nodded. This is much better than when I started. Though the number of needles can get higher, I don't have much use for them. What I need more is to increase the distance to which these needles go, and I also have to work on generating needles on only one part of my body. Otherwise, the chakra cost of this jutsu will be needlessly high. The next day, Fujin showed up outside the mission center. Tomatus, Katsumi, Ryota, Tadashi and his dog Kenta were already there. Tomatus went in to accept the mission, while others decided to catch up. Most of the conversation was centered around Katsumi recovering from the injuries. Tomatus returned and said, I accepted a mission in the land of hot water. A noble has made some discoveries in the territory under his command. He wants us to provide protection and help with the inspection. There will likely not be any fighting, but he issued the mission as a precaution. We may have to stay there for a few weeks, Tadashi said, a relaxed mission to get us started. Nice pick, Tomatus. Tomatus nodded as he thought, yeah, if Fujin is distracted. Then his life would be at risk if we take a difficult mission. The squad moved out and began rushing towards the hidden hot springs village. After a day and a half's travel, the squad finally reached and entered the village. As they were walking, Fujin couldn't help but notice the ridiculous number of hot spring baths in the village. Ryota noticed Fujin's gaze and chuckled. He asked, first time here. I too was surprised by the high number of hot springs in this village on my first visit. The village truly lives up to its name, haha. Fujin replied, I entered this country multiple times. But this is my first visit to this village. I did expect a high number of hot springs, but this is a bit too much. How do these shops even stay in business if so many exist? Wouldn't they keep undercutting each other's prices? Tomatus answered, the daimyo has issued a minimum price for using the hot spring baths. Every bathish has to abide by it. This way they don't go into a loss. Fujin muttered, it's still too much. After all, if customers don't visit them, they will still have losses. Tomatus nodded. Yeah, many bathises do shut down. That said, most of the bathises are sponsored by rich nobles who want to have the entire bathish to themselves when they come here for vacation. This is why you see so many of them. Fujin thought for a bit and said, that makes more sense. However, he couldn't help but think, a certain pervert must be visiting this village all the time. As they were talking, they reached a mansion. Tomatus interacted with the guard and introduced himself. Soon, the Konoha ninjas were guided inside. They were led to a room where only a middle-aged man was sitting. The man saw them and quickly greeted them. Welcome to the Hidden Hot Springs village, friends from Konoha. Have a seat. I am Matsushita Yusuke. I issued the mission. Tomatus nodded and sat opposite him. Yusuke looked at his servants who brought them here. The servants bowed and left them alone. When the doors were shut, Tomatus asked, so, what is our mission? The mission statement wasn't very clear, Yusuke said. That is because I wanted to keep this mission as secretive as I could. Tomatus became a bit serious on hearing that. The other Konoha ninjas were intrigued as well. Yusuke picked a map and laid it on the table in front of him. It was a map of the land of hot water. There was a small piece of land marked on the map, Yusuke said. This province is under my command. It is around 150 kilometers to the east of this village. One of my workers who were farming came across something interesting. I hired an expert to check and I think that we have discovered a mine. Tamatus was very alert. This matter seemed very serious. He asked, "What sort of mine is it?" Yusuke answered, "We will need to conduct a detailed exploration to be sure. Our preliminary exploration indicated that this mine includes rare and precious metals." Tamatus calmed down. He thought, though precious metal mines can earn a lot of money, they won't attract too much attention. However, Yusuke said, "And I suspect that the mine might have some chakra metal reserves as well." His words shocked everyone in the room. Chakra metal was extremely precious in this world. Tamatus muttered with a grim face, "Why didn't you issue an S-rank mission?" Yusuke said, "I'm not sure that it is indeed the case. We may have just gotten lucky during the preliminary exploration, so I don't want to attract a lot of attention. I have talked with our daimyo. If this mine does have chakra metal reserves, then we will give Konoha the mining rights. We will also give Konoha the first preference while selling it. So your mission consists of 2 parts. Firstly, I want your team to ensure that no bandits interfere with the mining process and that no information is leaked out. We haven't allowed the information to leak out, so unless we are very unlucky, rogue ninjas won't interfere with the process. As for the second part, I also want you to contact the Hokage secretly and ask him to send out more squads here as soon as we confirm that the mine has chakra metal reserves." Tamatus analyzed the situation. This mission can be very risky. If the details get leaked, then we may invite a lot of trouble. But if the mission is successful, the village will have huge profits. It would help out the village a lot, especially after such a disastrous loss. This news can improve our morale. Tamatus made a decision and said, "All right, we will take the mission. I'll send a message to Hokage-sama, but have your exploration team work very rapidly." Yusuke nodded. "Yes, I'll have them work as fast as they can." They began discussing the specifics of the mission, the explorers and other factors. After the discussion was completed, Yusuke smiled and said, "You must be tired from a long trip. I'll arrange dinner for you. You can rest here for the night and go for the mission tomorrow." Tamatus smiled and said, "Thank you." They got up and left. After having dinner, the Konoha ninjas gathered in a room. Tamatus said, "Ryota, write an encoded message to Hokage-sama. I'll send it to him. Write everything that was discussed with Yusuke," Ryota said. On it, he began writing on a scroll. Tamatus said, "I wanted to take an easier mission to end our break, but this one can go bad. Unfortunately, saying no isn't an option as this can help our village a lot. We will stay on our guard the entire time while protecting that area. However, if we spot enemy ninjas, be it rogue or of any other village, in numbers that we can't take on coming towards the mine, we will escape. Is that understood?" Everyone nodded. Tamatus said, "Good, take a good rest tonight. We will have to be on full alert from tomorrow onwards." Everyone went to their beds to get a nap. Tamatus stayed with Ryota until he was done. He borrowed a messenger hawk from Yusuke and sent the message to Hiruzen. The next morning, the Konoha group set off. Chapter 202 A Deadly Trap. Fujin and his team were running towards Yusuke's province. Since it was to the east of the hidden hot springs village, it was close to the border of the Land of Frost where their squad had done their previous mission. After a couple of hours of running, they reached close to Yusuke's province. Since they were close, Tamatus began instructing his squad. "Yusuke's exploration team has already established a base. We will meet up with them and decide on a plan to continue. Katsumi, you will set up a perimeter around the entire area with your bugs. I want to know about everyone who enters and leaves the area. It will be tough, but I want you to maintain it all the time." Katsumi replied, "All right, I'll get it done." Tamatus looked at Tadashi and said, "You and Kenta will keep patrolling the area. Remember every worker's scent when we reach there if later on you smell any new scents. Alert me immediately." Tadashi replied with a grin, "Don't worry, we got it, right Kenta?" Kenta bucked in agreement. Tamatus nodded and said, "Ryota, Fujin and I will stay on standby. If you two find something off, then you will pass on the message to us and tell us what you think will be the appropriate action to take." Everyone nodded. Tamatus was about to say more when all the Konoha ninjas suddenly stopped and jumped backwards. They landed on a branch and saw dozens of kunois raining down in front of them. All 5 frowned. In the next second, 20 silhouettes appeared from behind the trees. The Konoha ninjas were surrounded. As they saw their headbands, everyone's faces grew grim. Fujin muttered, "I couldn't sense them until now. They are all at Chunin and Junin levels." Tadashi said softly, "They have disguised their scent to smell similar to the trees." Fujin said, "At least 30 more ninjas are forming a second perimeter, and a few more are probably still hiding." Everyone's faces grew grim. One of the ninjas who were surrounding them spoke in a teasing tone. "I wonder why Konoha ninjas are rushing so hurriedly towards the Land of Frost." Tamata said, "We have a mission in this country. Why have you Kumogaku-Rei ninjas encircling us?" The Kumogaku-Rei ninja said, "If your mission is to explore that chakra metal mine, then I have unfortunate news for you. Kumogaku-Rei has decided to take control over the mine." His words angered everyone except Fujin. Fujin's mind was busy calculating whether they could avoid a confrontation or at least ensure a safe escape. However, he noticed the other 19 Kumo ninjas getting ready to attack. He could feel bloodlust from some of them. The more he calculated, the more he realized how dire the situation was. In the end, he just had one thought: shit. Tomatis quickly analyzed the situation. He didn't want to give up the mission, but success against such huge numbers was impossible. He said, "All right, we'll withdraw." However, the Kumo ninjas didn't move. The guy speaking had an evil smirk on his face as he said, "If we let you go, Konoha will send a larger squad to confront us. Unfortunately, you have to die." He immediately jumped forward to attack. The other 19 Kumo ninjas also attacked. In addition, a few Kumo ninjas kept hiding in the forest and observed the fight. Tomatis shouted, "Stay together, protect each other and focus on retreating." He knew that their chances of survival weren't great. He wanted to use teamwork to break through and run away. The Kumo ninjas all attacked Konoha ninjas with shurikens. They had launched so many shurikens that dodging them all would be impossible. Ryota shouted, "Careful, those shurikens are charged with lightning." The Kumo ninja smirked on hearing that, despite knowing the Konoha ninjas wouldn't be able to dodge due to the high number of shurikens. As long as the shurikens hit them or even their weapons, their body will be paralyzed for a few seconds. Even if they barely manage to avoid the shurikens, their bodies will still feel the electric charge and slow them down momentarily. This would be enough time for Kumo ninjas to win the battle. Chakra gathered on Fujin's palm. He said, "Ignore them, focus on making a breakthrough." His team decided to trust him and began moving back in the direction of the hidden hot springs village. The chakra on Fujin's hands transformed into the wind. A gentle breeze began flowing through the area. All the shurikens were redirected by the wind and stayed away from them. They passed the Konoha ninjas from a safe distance and instead moved towards the Kumo ninjas. The smirk on Kumo ninjas' faces suddenly disappeared. All took evasive maneuvers. A few grabbed swords and flowed lightning chakra through them and used them to block or deflect the shurikens. Taking advantage of the small opening, Tomatis instructed, "Tadashi, create an opening. Ryota and I will assist you." Katsumi and Fujin focus on defense. Tadashi and Kenta stepped forward. Man-Beast Ultimate Taijutsu Fang over Fang. Both began spinning around rapidly and doubled up on one of the Kumo ninjas. Ryota and Tomatis followed him. Their goal was to stop the ninjas next to the one Tadashi targeted from interfering. As long as Tadashi injured that ninja, the Konoha ninjas could get out of the encirclement. Fujin grabbed a sword in his right hand while thousands of bugs began appearing around Katsumi, with Tadashi leading the attack and others aiding him and protecting each other. The Konoha ninjas finally felt some chances of success. However, as Tadashi reached close to that ninja, he suddenly grinned. He made a hand sign while saying, "You couldn't have chosen a worse opponent to break through." Lightning released gyroscope jutsu and his chakra suddenly spiked, and 2 rings of lightning appeared around him and began spinning around him at very high speeds. Fujin's eyes widened as he sensed the immensely destructive power in those lightning rings. His chakra suddenly increased a lot. He had suppressed his chakra earlier to pretend to be a chunin, but he is a full-fledged chunin. Unfortunately, he didn't have any time to warn. Tadashi and Kenta directly hit the lightning rings. The jutsu was so powerful that their attack was immediately stopped. Both screamed in pain as their bodies were zapped by lightning. Ryota and Tomatis were shocked. They began moving towards Tadashi. However, they were blocked by the Kumo ninjas they were trying to block earlier. 2 Kumo ninjas attacked each of them and stalled them successfully. Fujin and Katsumi wanted to help. However, they were helpless. 4 Kumo ninjas weaved hand signs at the same time. Tadashi and Kenta were hit by the lightning rings. A lightning release false darkness jutsu. 4 lightning spears were headed at them from the back. Fujin immediately shot air bullets at 3 of the incoming attacks. The air bullets pierced through the lightning spears and dispersed the jutsu. Katsumi controlled his bugs to stop the last attack. The lightning directly hit those bugs. Hundreds of bugs died, but they managed to stop the jutsu. However, despite stopping the jutsus, their situation grew grimmer. While Tadashi and Kenta were being zapped and others were stalled, 2 Kumo ninjas flickered next to Tadashi and Kenta. Fujin and Katsumi turned around to continue their escape. However, they were shocked. 1 Kumo ninja stabbed his sword through Kenta's neck in front of them. Tadashi watched in horror as Kenta whimpered and howled in pain and collapsed on the sword, after a moment of disbelief. His eyes turned red in rage. He looked at the Kumo ninja in front of him and shouted, "Motherfucker, I will kill you all." His body was still being zapped. However, he gritted his teeth and moved despite the pain. He formed a claw with his right hand. His nails grew long and became very sharp. His hand transformed and looked very muscular and savage. He attacked the ninja who had formed the lightning rings that trapped him and Kenta with his claw aiming to crush his skull. Unfortunately, he was highly outmatched and his body was still slow due to the shocks he had to endure. The Kumo ninja moved to the side and dodged his attack with ease. He grabbed his sword and pierced Tadashi's heart in one smooth motion. Tadashi's eyes were wide open. He couldn't believe how easily he and his partner were killed. The Konoha ninjas wanted to help. However, they were all tied down. They didn't have any opportunity to save Tadashi. They could only watch helplessly as a teammate died in front of them. Chapter 203 Counterattack. Fujin hadn't been with this group for long, even though he didn't like to lose a teammate here. His focus was still on escaping. His mind was rapidly calculating ways to escape from his horrible situation. However, the other three had been with Tadashi for years. Their eyes grew red in rage. Tomatis yelled while weaving hand signs, "Since you want to kill us, I'll take as many of you with me as I can." Fire release burning ash. He spewed a stream of chakra-infused ash from his mouth. It spread in all directions but had a small space at the center, where the 4 Konoha ninjas stood. The Kumo ninjas tried approaching but moved away immediately on seeing the flammable ash spreading in the area. A few launched lightning and water jutsus into it. However, in the next second, Tomatis lit a fire in the ash, and the entire smoke screen blew up. The explosion cancelled out every jutsu aimed at them. 2 Kumo ninjas were just outside the range of the explosion. They were hit with stones and sticks, causing some injuries. The Kumo ninjas were preparing for another round of attack when suddenly, the fire caused by the explosion increased threefold in size and intensity, and began spreading out at a rapid speed. Fujin had released an infinite breakthrough jutsu in all directions, causing the fire to spread rapidly. The Kumo ninjas weren't expecting that. All 20 ninjas were too close to perform any jutsu or run away. They were hit by the fire. The ones who were hiding in the forest quickly retreated or used defensive jutsus. Kumaga Kurei advisor Hari, who was hidden in the forest, muttered, "They have a strong wind user. Be careful of him." The 3 who were with him nodded. They didn't expect the Konoha ninjas to hit back so fiercely. At the center, where there was no fire, Tomatis said, "We will use the chaos caused by this fire to escape." Ryota opposed, but Tomatis cut him off. "Tadashi wouldn't want us to follow him so soon. We will live and take our revenge another day. Hokage-sama will surely create a unit to take back the mine." Ryota unwillingly nodded. Fujin said, "It won't be easy. There are at least 30 more ninjas out there, and I can feel that a few more are hiding in my chakra field." Tomatis said, "We will give them another fire-wind combination jutsu. Hopefully that will deter them." Fujin nodded. He thought, "I hope that will work. Unfortunately, I have a bad feeling about this. Some of the chakras I sensed are much stronger than any of us." Screams of pain could be heard as the fire burned their flesh. 8 Kumo ninjas couldn't endure and collapsed. They would soon be cooked inside out and meet their death. The other 12 quickly escaped from the fire and began dousing the fire, burning them. Though they survived and weren't fatally injured, they wouldn't be able to fight properly anymore. They were in terrible pain from having their flesh burnt. Many of their delicate organs like eyes and ears were damaged as well. The other Kumo ninjas were disturbed by seeing this sight. The situation changed too abruptly. 1 second they had a complete advantage, while in the next second their whole 20-man unit was defeated. Finding the exact moment Tomatis said now, all 4 flickered instantly. They were planning to use this chaos to escape. Once they managed to get out of the encirclement, the Kumo ninjas wouldn't want to chase them through the lands of another country. Unfortunately, Kumo had plenty of sensors among their numbers. As soon as the Konoha ninjas left, one sensor shouted, "They are coming here." The sensors, among other groups, sensed them as well and began moving towards them. Though there were 30 ninjas in the second perimeter, they were spread in all directions to ensure that the Konoha ninjas couldn't escape. The place where the Konoha ninjas were headed only had 6 Kumo ninjas. The leader of that 6 ninja squad noticed them approaching. He calculated, "We only have to stall them for a few seconds, then others will catch up and they will be in a helpless situation once again." The Konoha ninjas also knew about it. Tomatis weaved hand signs rapidly. Fujin noticed his hand signs and timed his jutsu perfectly. Fire release fire wave jutsu, wind release infinite breakthrough jutsu. The jutsus combined. Extremely hot air moved rapidly towards the Kumo ninjas. Two ninjas stepped forward while waving hand signs. Water release water wall jutsu, earth release earth wall jutsu. Two walls appeared in front of them. The fire wind combination jutsu easily broke through the water wall. Evaporated water formed a smoke screen in the area. However, the earth wall stood firm. The jutsu hit it and began moving around the earth wall. Though the Kumo ninjas were barely safe behind it, they were trapped as the forest around them was burning. The Konoha ninjas didn't mind the result. They avoided the fire and escaped in a different direction. Unfortunately, the Kumo ninjas didn't allow them to escape so easily. 4 ropes made of lightning suddenly appeared through the fire they had caused. They moved at a rapid speed and didn't allow Konoha ninjas to use any jutsus. They had to split up to dodge. Unfortunately, the lightning ropes also changed directions to chase them. Fujin noticed the rope coming towards him. Chakra flowed through his sword as he slashed at it. The wind element chakra flowing along his sword easily neutralized the jutsu. However, he quickly turned around and looked behind. 2 jets of water were heading at him. Katsumi once again sacrificed some of his bugs once again to stop the lightning whip. Ryota slammed his hands on the ground. A small rock shield appeared in front of him. The lightning rope hit the shield. However, instead of piercing through or damaging the shield, the lightning was directed into the ground. Lastly, Tomatis just kept hiding behind trees until the lightning rope ran out of power. The group wanted to run away once again. Unfortunately, the remaining Kumo ninjas had begun to catch up. Ryota was about to move towards Tomatis. However, 2 hands appeared from the ground and grabbed his legs. He looked down as the Kumo ninja said, "Got you." He began dragging Ryota underground. Ryota quickly made a hand sign and touched the ground. The ground suddenly became harder, trapping the Kumo ninja underground. Soon, spears began forming underground. A few pierced into his body. The Kumo ninja was horrified. At that instant, a lightning spear flew towards Ryota. Ryota's attention was drawn towards it. However, it was too late for him to move. Fortunately, a shield of bugs appeared in front of him to block the lightning spear. However, the lightning spear changed direction and hit the ground. Ryota's earth jutsu was dispelled and the ground softened. The Kumo ninja, who was under the ground, quickly escaped. Katsumi and Ryota looked at the attacker, who was a woman. She was tall, fair-skinned with a curvaceous figure and had a stoic, aloof expression on her face. She has blue eyes and straight, shoulder-length blonde hair cut in an asymmetrical bob style. At the same time, Fujin and Tomatis were attacked as well. Right after Tomatis neutralized the lightning whip, he heard a voice behind him. "You are very good." Tomatis quickly turned around. However, an intense light was emitted at him, blinding his eyes. Tomatis closed his eyes and grabbed a kunai. However, instead of fighting, he flickered away. Unfortunately, his opponent was faster than him. C flickered as well and launched lightning at Tomatis. Due to having his eyes blinded, Tomatis couldn't observe the jutsu properly. The lightning hit his body, causing him immense pain. He barely managed to open his eyes to see another attack heading towards him. At the last moment, he snapped out of the lightning shocks and dodged C's attack. He wanted to counterattack. However, 5 more Kumo ninjas appeared and surrounded him. He fell into a desperate struggle. Fujin too was attacked at the same time. When he dodged the lightning whip, he was the closest to the fire they had set up. 2 jets of water were heading straight at him. Fujin created and fired 2 vacuum bullets. Both hit the water jets and pierced through them. Fujin sensed that they are trying to break out of the fire and join the fight. He opened his mouth and exhaled strong winds at the fire in front of him. The fire was instantly magnified and became chaotic. The Kumo ninjas who were planning to break through were scared by the sight. Immediately an earth dome formed around them to protect them from the firestorm. Fujin was planning to take this opportunity to run away. Unfortunately, another attack was headed towards him. He turned his head to the right. His eyes widened as he saw a python made of black lightning heading towards him. He immediately flickered while cursing, "Motherfucking Darui." Chapter 204. Fighting with his full power. Right when Fujin flickered, the black lightning python also changed direction and chased after Fujin. Unfortunately, it was much faster than Fujin. Fujin thought running would be pointless. He concentrated chakra into his left palm and quickly charged it with wind chakra. He stopped moving and raised his left palm. The black lightning python quickly reached him and hit his palm. Fujin was pushed behind along the ground, but the chakra on his hand stopped most of the jutsu. However, some lightning still hit his palm and electrocuted him. Fortunately, Fujin had already trained in the lightning element. He could endure those shocks without affecting his ability to fight. Darui was surprised by Fujin's action. He thought, "This kid is impressive. We didn't plan on participating in this fight. Unfortunately, they killed 8 and injured 12 more ninjas. Boss will be very pissed at us if we let any more die." After a few seconds, the lightning python ran out of chakra and lightning and collapsed. Fujin clenched his fist to crush the lightning python in his palm. At that instant, 2 more Kumo ninjas arrived around Fujin. Fujin could sense a dozen more getting close. One of the 2 ninjas appeared in front of Fujin. He swung his sword vertically, wanting to hack Fujin into 2. The other ninja appeared behind Fujin on his right side and attacked Fujin with a sword as well. Fujin immediately punched the sword in front of him with his left fist. The chakra he had concentrated in his palm to block the lightning python still existed, and due to being zapped, his fist was charged with Darui's black lightning. At the same time, he swung the sword in his right hand to clash with the enemy's sword. Both Kumo ninjas timed their attacks perfectly. They clashed with Fujin at the same time. Fujin's left fist hit the sword's edge. The Kumo ninja grinned, expecting Fujin's fist to be split open. However, his eyes widened as he heard a cracking noise. His steel sword had cracked. In front of his eyes, he saw his sword being broken into pieces. Fujin's fist continued moving forward and punched the ninja in his stomach. The ninja's eyes popped out as he felt the full impact of a chakra and lightning-enhanced punch. The punch wrecked his internal organs and sent him flying. He spat out a lot of blood as he flew backwards and lost consciousness. At the same time, when Fujin's fist met the sword, his sword clashed with the enemy's sword behind him. Fujin's sword cut through the enemy's sword like a hot knife cuts through butter. At the same time that Fujin punched the enemy in front of him, his sword cut the enemy behind him in 2. A frown formed on Darui's face as he saw another one of his subordinates die. He was waving hand signs when Fujin countered his opponents. Lightning released Black Panther. He released Black Lightning in the form of a panther, which reached Fujin almost instantly. Fujin had sensed Darui building up his chakra. He saw the Black Panther rush towards him. Having experienced the Black Python, Fujin didn't bother dodging. Instead, he gathered chakra in his mouth and throat, right when the Black Panther was only a few meters away from him. Fujin opened his mouth and launched his strongest jutsu, Wind Release Vacuum Cannon Jutsu. The vacuum cannon hit the Black Panther head-on. Darui's eyes widened as he saw his jutsu being pierced through with utmost ease. The Black Panther began dissipating, though some of it still continued towards Fujin. He dodged easily. Darui immediately moved out of the way while observing the jutsu. The vacuum cannon reached his position and continued forward, destroying every tree in its path. Darui instantly recognized Wind Vacuum Technique. Someone other than Danzo learnt this technique in Konoha, and it's a strong jutsu as well. No wonder my jutsu was overpowered so easily. 6 ninjas were running towards Fujin and planning to attack him together. However, they saw the trail of destruction Fujin's jutsu left in its path and were left tongue-tied by it. They immediately stopped approaching Fujin and looked at Darui for instructions. They didn't want to be at the receiving end of such a jutsu. Darui became very serious. He said, "Leave him to me." He grabbed his giant sword and moved towards Fujin. Fujin moved as well, such that Darui and the other Kumo ninjas were in a straight line. Wind Release Air Bullet Jutsu. He fired a dozen air bullets at Darui. Darui dodged them with ease and attacked Fujin with his sword. Lightning could be seen flowing along his sword. Fujin attacked back with his sword. The metal swords produce a loud sound. At the same time, the Kumo ninjas who were behind Darui were caught off guard. They saw a dozen air bullets heading their way and scurried out of the way. However, some were still hit. Many of them had small cuts due to the bullets. The unluckiest one had a hole in his right arm. Fujin and Darui both flowed chakra through their swords. However, Fujin was surprised. He expected to have an advantage due to the wind element. However, Darui had poured a lot more chakra into his sword as compared to Fujin, so his sword stayed intact. He applied force. Though Fujin's physique was very good, Darui was much stronger than him. He was pushed back. His face became grim on realizing how outmatched he was. In an instant, a vacuum bullet formed in his mouth and was launched at Darui. Darui noticed it and immediately got out of the way and attacked Fujin once again with his sword. Fujin defended himself but was getting overpowered. He frowned. His chakra and strength are both stronger than mine. I can't engage him in head-on combat. I have to resort to short clashes and hope that one of my bullets injure him. Fujin used the force of Darui's sword to move away from him. Dori attacked even more aggressively. However, instead of countering him with his strength, Fujin began parrying his attacks and using air and vacuum bullets to attack Dori. Dori dodged them all, but Fujin had two goals with his attacks. He would not only aim the bullets at Dori, but would also send a few towards the Kumo ninjas watching the fight. One of the Kumo ninjas began cursing, "Damn kid, he's aiming to injure us all." Another said, "We should move away, he is trying to distract Dori. We will be sinners if Dori gets wounded because of us. We will disperse in different directions and surround him from a distance so that he won't be able to escape." Everyone nodded and dispersed. Dori relaxed when he saw his allies leave. He looked at Fujin and analyzed while fighting. This kid is good, though he is weaker than me. A single mistake could cost me my life." Dori continued attacking with his sword, but he also began using lightning jutsu. Fujin dodged or countered his jutsus with wind jutsus, and both entered into a fierce fight. The other Kumo ninjas kept an eye on the battle from a distance. While Fujin was engaged in a fierce clash, Ryota and Katsumi were dominated by Samui, even together. They weren't a match for her. To make matters worse, other Kumo ninjas joined the fight. Ryota and Katsumi's faces became grim. Katsumi struggled to make a decision as he fought. In a minute, both he and Ryota had numerous injuries on their bodies. He sighed and said, "Ryota, escape." Ryota was stunned. "What do you mean?" Katsumi said, "Your earth jutsus aren't of much help. I'll buy time by stalling them with my bugs and join you later." Ryota knew that there was no way for Katsumi to return alive. He wanted to argue, however. The Kumo ninjas pressed on the attack once more. Tens of thousands of bugs appeared from Katsumi's body. He shouted, "Leaf!" The bugs immediately went on the attack. Ryota unwillingly decided to make a run. Knowing what fate awaited Katsumi, he didn't dare to look back. Unfortunately, while he was running, he was suddenly attacked by shurikens. He dodged immediately. Two Kumo ninjas appeared and attacked him. Ryota moved back and slammed his hands on the ground. A bunch of spears appeared from the ground and attacked the Kumo ninjas. However, the two ninjas used lightning jutsus to counter his move. The three entered into a fierce fight with Ryota trying his best to escape. Samui looked at the bugs and said, "They may be poisonous, don't let them bite you. Hit him with fire and lightning jutsus." The Kumo ninjas around her nodded and attacked from a distance. Katsumi tried his best. He used all sorts of bugs. Some were resistant to lightning, some were incredibly poisonous. He defended himself with defensive bugs while trying to use the poisonous bugs to bite the Kumo ninjas. However, the Kumo ninjas didn't let a single bug bite them. They bombarded Katsumi with lightning and fire jutsus along with explosive tags. Katsumi's bugs began dying by the thousands. In a couple of minutes, most of his bugs died. Katsumi watched with a grim and sad face. Like Kenta was a partner for Tadashi, his bugs were a partner for him. He sighed, "I tried a lot to escape. Unfortunately, there is no way out. I am completely surrounded. It looks like I'll be joining you soon, Tadashi." A few seconds later, a flash of lightning appeared in Katsumi's eyes. Samui appeared in front of him and cut his head off with one swing of her blade. Katsumi became the second Konoha ninja to die here. However, despite his death, his bugs still kept attacking. Samui instructed, "Deal with the bugs, I'll help the others." She left and moved towards Ryota. Ryota was still fighting the two Kumo ninjas. He had managed to escape a couple of times, but they caught up to him again. During the fight, one of the Kumo ninjas landed a kick on Ryota's abdomen and sent him rolling. Ryota immediately got on his feet, however. He felt someone was behind him. He quickly turned around and was shocked to see Samui. His throat dried up, his hands began shaking. He asked in a trembling voice, "Where is Katsumi?" Samui replied in just one word, "Dead." Ryota's mind was in disbelief and rage. However, before he could do anything, he felt pain in his abdomen. He looked down to see a sword piercing out of his abdomen. One of the two ninjas he was fighting took the opportunity of his distraction and stabbed his sword into his back. Ryota heard a sadistic laugh as the ninja said, "Don't worry, all your friends and family will join you soon." Suddenly, rage appeared on Ryota's face. He didn't speak a single word and just made the confrontation hand sign. Samui's eyes widened. She jumped back immediately while shouting, "Move away from him." Chapter 205 Crazy Suicide Bombers. The Kumo ninjas were confused. In the next moment, Ryota's body exploded. The ninja who had stabbed his back didn't have any time to move. His body took the entire brunt of the explosion. The other Kumo ninja was a bit far away. He moved a bit, but he too was caught in the explosion. When the dust settled, Samui saw a very gore picture. Ryota's body was blown into pieces. The ninja that stabbed him had no flesh on the front side of his body. His face, chest, abdomen and other parts were completely exposed. He fell down dead. The lost Kumo ninja was crying in pain. His body was on fire. Samui immediately doused the fire and began helping him. At the same time, she was shocked at how decisive Ryota was. Ryota knew that despite Katsumi buying him some time, escape would be very difficult. He recalled Fujin saying that there were more than 30 ninjas still encircling them, and all of them were at least as strong as Ryota himself was. So in the time between him leaving Katsumi behind and the 2 Kumo ninjas attacking him, Ryota had stuck 20 explosive tags on various parts of his body and on the inside part of his clothes. When he saw Samui, he knew that his death was inevitable. So he decided to die in a way that would hurt his killers the most. If he knew that his last move killed a Chunin from Kumo and ended the career of another Kumo Chunin, he'd probably smile as Samui applied some first aid to the injured ninja. Her face was very grim. She thought, "We had planned to kill the Konoha squad while taking no casualties. At most, we concluded that some might take a few minor injuries. However, 8 of our ninjas died in the initial counterattack while 12 got injured. Now 1 more is dead and another is critically injured. I hope that the remaining 2 Konoha ninjas don't manage to kill anyone." Soon, another Kumo ninja arrived on the spot. He was shocked to see the gore. Before he could say anything, Samui instructed, "Apply first aid to him. I'll send a medical ninja over here to help you." The ninja nodded and got to work. Samui left to ensure that the remaining 2 Konoha ninjas don't mess up anything. Fujin and Darui were still in a fierce fight. Darui was much stronger than Fujin. However, Fujin had managed to fight back without getting injured. In fact, he had made more killer attacks during their fight than Darui. As he fought while multitasking, a smile appeared on his face. Fujin had never been a fan of taking risks. He always chose the easy way out and won his battles efficiently, so he had never experienced such a battle. A battle where 1 wrong move would end his life, where 1 misstep could maim him. Between the second and the third phases of the Chunin exam, Renjuro tried to simulate such an experience for Fujin. However, Fujin always knew that his life wasn't in danger against Renjuro. So he viewed it more as a pain in the ass rather than experiencing any thrill. However, in this deadly fight, all his senses worked beyond what Fujin had ever experienced. Every single move he made was flawless. The battle made his blood boil in excitement. His movements kept improving as the fight moved on. Fujin felt that he was getting faster and faster. However, it was just his body moving more efficiently. Fujin was surprised. "I expected to hate the situation I'm in. I never expected that I would instead find it enjoyable." Darui was surprised when he saw the smile on Fujin's face. He had seen such a smile very few times in his life. He sighed in his mind. Another battle freak, great. The smile reminded Darui of a few people who he had seen in his life who loved to fight without caring about anything else. Instead of fear, they would fight like a maniac. One of those few people was the current leader of Kumogakure. Despite being weaker in strength, Fujin managed to hold on against Darui without getting a single injury. However, though he had a smile on his face, he didn't lose himself in the battle. He analyzed, "My chakra reserves are almost empty. I only have a little more than a quarter. I won't last much longer in such an intense battle." Unfortunately, despite performing well, Fujin never found any opportunity to escape from Darui. Fujin's chakra field was active. As he analyzed, "I need to find a way to get rid of the ninjas watching the fight. If I try to escape, they will attack, and I'll be pinched between Darui and whoever attacks. It will only result in me dying faster." Just like Fujin, Tamatis was also engaged in fierce fighting. He was completely outmatched by his enemies as well. However, while Fujin managed to ensure that he didn't get injured and kept the other Kumo ninjas at bay, Tamatis was ganged up on by 7 Kumogakure ninjas in addition to C. Injuries piled on his body. He had lost his left eye. His right arm was completely burnt from intense lightning shocks. Over 100 small cuts were visible on his body. He was pretty much on his last legs. Tamatis looked at the Kumo ninjas and realized, "This is the end for me, but if I am going to die, I'll take at least a few of them with me." He began making hand signs. However, at the next moment, a kick landed on his abdomen. He was sent flying away. He flipped in the air and managed to land on his feet. The kick disrupted his hand signs. However, he landed a few meters away from every Kumo ninja. Realizing the opportunity, he immediately flickered away. The Kumo ninjas followed him in a hurry, and a chase began. Unfortunately for Tamatis, he was very exhausted and injured. His speed was much lesser as compared to Kumo ninjas. C took out a giant shuriken and threw it at Tomatis. Due to his tiredness, Tomatis didn't notice it. He stepped on a branch and jumped, aiming to get away. Just when he jumped, the shuriken hit his left thigh and cut clean through it. Tomatis felt the pain and looked down at his left leg in horror. He lost his footing and crashed down. As he fell down, he saw Fujin and Dari fighting in front of his eyes. Both Fujin and Dari also saw him and were surprised. They stopped fighting for a moment. Fujin immediately flickered and appeared next to Tomatis. Unfortunately, he had already lost consciousness. Soon, C and the Kumo ninjas with him also arrived. Samui as well appeared next to Dari at this moment. The Kumo ninjas were surprised to see that Fujin was unharmed. Fujin's expression became grim. His already bad situation had taken a turn for the worse. He thought, shit, Darui was already out of my league, and I am sure that C and Samui are both stronger than me. Not to mention the 15 others that are along with these three. Ow, what the fuck should I do? Fujin's brain calculated all possible options at the speed of light. Fortunately for him, Kumo ninjas didn't attack him right away. C asked Darui, how is he still alive? Darui shrugged and said, the kid is strong, I couldn't injure him. The Kumo ninjas he just arrived were surprised. Darui was very reputed in the land of lightning. The fact that a kid much younger than him could last so long was shocking. C observed Fujin, who was crouching down next to Tomatis while observing all the Kumo ninjas. C shook his head and said, the kid has almost exhausted his chakra. Let's however, Darui interrupted by asking, what is your name? Fujin looked at him but didn't answer. Darui didn't mind that and continued, you have exhausted most of your chakra. Though you are still unharmed, if you fight, your death is the only possibility. Surrender now. In the future, your Haikage could make a deal with the Rackage to get you back. Fujin didn't reply. He thought, although his words are honest, becoming a prisoner would be the stupidest move. I'll have no control if Kumogaku-rei decides to torture, maim or kill me. Not to mention, hoping for Hiruzen to rescue me would be beyond stupid. That old fox might show that he is a very emotional person, but there are layers of deception hidden under his thick skin. Seeing that Fujin didn't respond, C said, since you don't want to surrender, you'll have to... However, as he spoke, Fujin's frown disappeared. Instead, a smirk appeared on Fujin's face. Soon that smirk turned into a wide grin. The Kumogaku-rei ninjas were surprised. One of them asked, did he lose his mind? For the first time, Fujin spoke. You know, I was always very afraid of risking my life. I always decided to take the easier way out and do my job efficiently. However, fighting you has made me experience a thrill that I never imagined. Darui, though you may not have heard of me, I have heard of you. Doesn't the Raikage think of you as his second right hand? Fujin's grin grew wider. It grew so wide that it looked as though his face might split into two. His grin creeped out some of the Kumo ninjas surrounding him. Fujin continued, though I will die, taking down 18 Kumogaku-rei ninjas, including the Raikage's right hand with me would make me a hero in Konoha. Ha 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 ha, Samui's eyes widened on hearing that. She had already seen a crazy Konoha ninja. However, before she could act, the seals on Fujin's braces lit. In the blink of an eye, 400 explosive tags appeared around Fujin and formed a sphere around him. They completely blocked Fujin from the line of sight of the Kumogaku-rei ninjas. However, they could still hear Fujin's laughter. The Kumogaku-rei ninjas immediately became grim. They decided to move away. However, even before they could move, a breeze flew from inside the sphere made of explosive tags. The winds made the explosive paper tags spread throughout the area. Kumo ninjas were horrified to see hundreds of explosive tags heading towards them. Chapter 206 Schemes Hidden Dangers. The Kumo ninjas were horrified at the sight of hundreds of explosive tags coming at them. Many Kumo ninjas began running away, a few escaped underground. Darui, C. Samui, and another Junin had grim faces. They immediately made hand signs and cast a lightning net in front of them. A few explosive tags hit the lightning net and were disabled. However, soon the explosive tags began exploding just before touching the lightning net. The lightning net was damaged by the explosion. The Kumo Junins increased the amount of chakra they poured into the lightning net to repair it and make it hold on. However, the number of explosive tags was too high. The lightning net was soon ripped apart. The Kumo ninjas immediately escaped into the ground. As soon as they did, the explosions covered the entire place. A loud sound could be heard for miles around the spot where the explosion occurred. Trees, branches, and stones were sent flying by the explosion. A smoke screen of dust, soil, and smoke spread for hundreds of meters. A massive fire lit up and spread through the forest at a rapid speed. The smoke raised due to the forest fire could be seen from all the nearby villages. After a couple of minutes of the explosion, a head popped out of the ground. It was Dory. Soon Samui and the other Junin appeared out of the ground. All their faces had been covered in dust. Soon 8 more Kumo ninjas also crawled out of the ground or ran back towards where Dory was. Couldn't help but mutter, "What a crazy guy, who carries so many explosive tags with them." The other Kumo ninjas were cursing Fujin too. Dory looked at C and said, "Sense the position of others." C nodded and began sensing. He led the other Kumo ninjas to where the missing Kumo ninjas were and began treating them one by one. Meanwhile, Dory and Samui began checking what happened to Fujin. Samui said, "I should have warned you. Another one of them killed himself the same way." Dory said, "It's not your fault. There was barely any time, besides considering the number of explosive tags he had. We can say that he always planned to die in this way." They arrived at the spot where Fujin and Tomatis were before the explosion went off. They didn't find anything interesting at first. However, soon a shock appeared on their face. Samui said, "There is nothing here." Darui nodded. "Yeah, even though the explosions were powerful, at least their blood and bones should have remained here." Samui said, "This means that he escaped." No, they escaped. Anger formed on Samui's face. Kumo had taken a lot of casualties in this confrontation. By comparison, Konoha only lost 3 ninjas. Soon, a man arrived at their location along with 7 ninjas. He was Hari. He had watched the fight between Fujin and Dari but had to escape in a hurry when he saw the explosive tags. Hari asked, "Who was that lunatic brat?" Darui replied, "He never told his name." Hari asked, "Is he dead?" Darui said, "Most likely not. He was standing here before the explosives went off, but there are no signs of blood or remains. He probably escaped just before the explosions went off." Hari frowned. He analyzed for a minute before saying, "When we saw those explosive tags, it attracted all our attention. He must have flickered right before the tags exploded, and he carried the other Konoha ninja with him." Samui said, "We need to hunt him. I'll form a squad and go after him." However, Hari shook his head and said, "No, it's already been around 5 minutes since the explosive tags exploded. He should have escaped a long distance." Samui countered, "His chakra was depleted and he is carrying an injured ninja with him." Hari replied, "It's fine. So I didn't expect us to have such a heavy loss. The goal of this mission is to see what action Konoha takes after knowing that we took a mine that should have been under their control. I plan to leak the information later, but this is fine too. That youngster will report what happened here to the Hokage and do that task for me. For now, assist C in saving and healing all the injured ninjas." Darui and Samui nodded and began helping C. After a few hours, they healed all the injured ninjas and tallied their losses. In all, 14 ninjas died during the fighting. 3 were critically injured and wouldn't be able to continue being a ninja, and 13 were lightly injured. All the dead and critically injured ninjas were of the Chunin rank. Hari sighed on knowing the losses as he realized, "My plan was to cause losses to Konoha and see their reaction to it. However, on the first step of my plan, we faced a setback. Now there will be voices of opposition in Kumogaku-rei on starting a war with Konoha. After all, just a small clash caused us so many losses. Everyone will be worried about how many losses we will suffer when we face the full might of Konoha. Still, Lord Raikid should be able to push forward for war if he wishes to." Far away from the Kumo ninjas who were healing their wounds, Fujin was running across the land of hot springs. In his hand he was holding Tomatis. The wound on his left thigh was cauterized and bandaged, while the other wounds were just bandaged so that blood wouldn't fall from his wounds. A few hours ago, when Fujin was surrounded by 400 explosive tags, he exhaled a gentle wind that guided all the explosive tags towards the Kumo ninjas. At the same time, he created a wind clone to control the explosive tags and grabbed Tomatis by the back of his neck and used wind instantaneous body jutsu to flicker a long distance away. He repeated the jutsu a few times to end up miles away from the spot of the explosion. He turned around to see the massive smoke rising into the skies from that spot, as he thought, "I have 1 spiked shield and 1 normal shield in my forearm braces. In addition, I have put both my swords in there as well, but I couldn't come up with any good ideas on what to store in the remaining 4 seals. Luckily I filled them up with explosive tags just in case I needed them. I still have 200 more tags. If they chase after me, I'll use them to scare those Kumo ninjas off. But first," he took out a bottle and put a few soldier pills in his mouth. He made a hand sign and a shadow clone appeared next to him. He picked up Tomatis, and all 3 began escaping again. As they were running, the shadow clone burned the wound on his left leg so that the bleeding would stop. He also applied some bandages to his smaller wounds. Fujin ran, flickered, and used wind and earth instantaneous body jutsus for over an hour before taking a break. He was very exhausted. His clone bandaged Tamatis properly and dispelled itself. Fujin looked at the unconscious Tamatis as he thought. I had initially thought of escaping by myself. Carrying him is a big burden. But the last time Kumo did a foul play, Hiruzen sacrificed Hazafi to avoid a war. If Kumo cried foul again and Hiruzen decided to compromise once more, I would have been the one to be sacrificed if I returned alone. A frown appeared on Fujin's face. During the escape, this thought troubled him a lot. He analyzed. The thought of going rogue has appeared in my mind several times in the last hour. But though I am strong, without Konoha's resources and library, my future path will be highly restricted if I go rogue. Not to mention, I might be hunted by both Konoha and Kumo, and if by chance I survive and get stronger, Akatsuki might show up asking me to join them. Sigh, what a mess. His eyes wandered towards Tamatis. He has lost his left leg, so his career as a ninja is pretty much over. If Hiruzen decides to sacrifice someone, sacrificing him would make much more sense than sacrificing a promising youngster. The only issue with this line of thought is that Tamatis is from the Sarutori clan. If Hiruzen has a soft spot for his clan and isn't willing to sacrifice them, my head will be on the chopping block. Fujin sat in meditation as he decided on his next actions. After a few minutes, he opened his eyes and decided, I will go back to Konoha. Despite losing the Uchiha clan, Konoha's strength should be stronger than 4-5 years ago. So it's unlikely that Hiruzen will take the same step. Even if he decides to compromise, he will first offer the chakra metal mine to Kumogakure, and that should be more precious than the head of any ninja. Also, I doubt Kumogakure would want the head of a young ninja over a chakra metal mine. However, if Hiruzen does decide to put up the same question in front of me as Hazafi, I'll act sad but determined and ask for some time and escape from Konoha during that time. Though it will be very risky, the alternative isn't risk-free either. Having rested, Fujin stood up and looked at the sky while thinking, Hiruzen, you better not disappoint me this time. He picked up Tamatis and began his journey once more. He had figured that the Kumo ninjas weren't chasing him or were too slow, so he moved at a consistent speed to ensure that his body doesn't get tired once again. He moved for hours and finally sighed in relief as he stepped into the land of fire. Chapter 207 A demand for Fujin's head. It was a normal boring day for Yamanaka Hiroto. He had just finished patrolling and was wasting his time in the patrol camp while chatting with Hyuga-jun. However, he suddenly stopped and spread his chakra field. It spread for 500 meters, but he couldn't sense anything. Hyuga-jun asked, Did you sense something? Yamanaka Hiroto replied, I can't sense anyone. But someone just sensed our camp. Check with your Byakugan. Jun immediately activated his Byakugan. Hiroto asked, Who is it? A frown formed on Jun's face as he replied, It's one of our ninjas, and he is carrying another who is very injured. He is around 1 kilometer to the east. Fujin had roughly memorized the locations of patrol camps from his previous missions. After arriving in the vicinity, he spread his chakra field to sense any ninjas in the vicinity. On sensing 7 ninjas in one place, Fujin flickered towards them. In a minute, he appeared before Hiroto and Jun. Hiroto quickly said, Identify yourself, Fujin replied. Suzuki Fujin, you can ask questions later. My teammate got very injured during the mission. Do you have a medic? Jun nodded and said, All right, follow me. He quickly led Fujin into the camp and knocked on a door. He said, Emiko, we have a very injured person. Come quickly. Emiko immediately opened the door. She was the medical ninja in the camp. She was surprised when she saw Tamatis' condition. She quickly laid him on a bed and began healing him. While Emiko treated Tamatis, Jun and Hiroto interrogated Fujin. They were suspicious of Fujin because Fujin didn't have a single injury on him despite his teammate being so injured. He asked for Fujin's ID number and other standard questions to confirm that Fujin was indeed a ninja from Konoha. Finally, he asked, Where is your remaining team? Fujin put up a sad face and said, They are all dead. Hiroto had expected such a result. He thought, I guess that he is safe because of the sacrifices of his teammates. He sighed and patted Fujin's shoulder and said, It's fine. Sometimes missions go wrong. Fujin nodded. Emiko took around 20 minutes to heal Tamatis. She left her room and approached Fujin and asked, Are you injured as well? Fujin shook his head. No, I am fine. Emiko nodded and left to keep an eye on Tamatis. After an hour, Tamatis gained consciousness. He quickly got up and sat up straight. However, his injuries made him grunt in pain. He looked around himself and was surprised that he was still alive. Emiko stopped him from moving much and quickly asked him how he was feeling. Tamatas answered her questions. When he was done, he asked, "How did I get here? And where are my teammates?" The medical ninja sighed and said, "Your teammate Fujin brought you here. I'll call him." She left the room to call Fujin. However, she was impressed by Tamatas, despite losing his left leg. His first thought was the well-being of his team. Meanwhile, Tamatas was surprised that Fujin was able to escape along with him. However, recalling Tadashi and imagining the fates of Ryota and Katsumi, tears began rolling down his cheeks. He quickly wiped them off, thinking, "I shouldn't appear weak in front of Fujin. I'll have lots of time to grieve for them later." Soon Fujin arrived in the room where Tamatas was resting. He could see the wetness in Tamatas's eyes due to the tears he was holding back. Tamatas looked at Fujin and said, "I am glad that you are safe, Fujin." Fujin nodded and looked at his cut leg. He asked, "How are you?" Tamatas saw his sight and said sorrowfully, "I'll be fine." After half a minute of silence, he asked, "Do you know what happened to Katsumi and Ryota?" Fujin shook his head and answered, "No, I didn't see either of them after we split up. I only saw you and managed to barely escape." Tamatas was shivering and hearing Fujin's answer. With the last ray of hope, he asked, "You're a sensor. Did you sense them?" Fujin sighed and replied, "No, I was attacked by a ninja called Dari. He was much stronger than me. We flickered many times during the fight and were a long distance away from where we were ambushed, so I couldn't sense them." Tamatas sighed and stayed silent for a few minutes. No one spoke. Finally, the sorrowful expression disappeared from Tamatas's face, and instead, he looked determined. He asked Fujin, "How long have I been unconscious?" Fujin was surprised to see the sudden change in attitude. He answered, "Round 10 hours. I reached this camp around an hour ago." Tamatas looked at his leg and said, "I'll be a burden if I come along with you." Fujin, run towards Konoha as fast as you can and inform Lord Hokage what happened. He looked at Fujin and said with determination, "This is a very important mission for our village, Fujin. I'll leave it in your hands." Fujin realized, "I see, he wants revenge." That said, knowing Hiruzen, it's highly unlikely that he will choose violence. Unfortunately, those three won't ever get justice. Though I guess we already had our revenge as at least 9 of them are dead. Fujin said, "All right, I'll go quickly. You take care of yourself, Tamatas." Tamatas nodded and said, "Don't worry about me, I'll be fine." Fujin could see that despite his determined expression, Tamatas was having a hard time controlling his sorrow. He was holding back just to not demoralize Fujin. Fujin immediately left. A few minutes later, Tamatas broke down in tears. Fujin rapidly moved across the land of fire. On the way, he couldn't help but sigh. A poor guy was trying so hard to control his tears. I wonder how many such instances occur daily in this world. How many squads meet their end due to a mission going wrong? I kinda had it lucky so far. Unfortunately, it looks like my luck ran out today. I need better means to escape from such situations. This time I was lucky that Tamatas crashed into my battlefield and Darui decided to not finish me off immediately and instead gave me the option to surrender. I didn't even have a chance to escape until then. I don't want to depend on luck next time, as not everyone will be merciful like Darui. While moving, Fujin analyzed the options available to him. The first jutsu that came to his mind was obviously the Flying Thunder God. However, he rejected it. "No," Hiruzen said, "that I'll have to be a grandmaster at Fuin Jutsu before being allowed to learn it. Right now I could barely even be considered a master. Becoming grandmaster will require a lot more time. Not to mention, I'll need the Junin rank to be able to access the seals kept in Section A of the library." Fujin analyzed more but couldn't think of any idea other than the one he had at the back of his mind. Fujin sighed. "I guess that's the only available option. Unfortunately, even that is very risky. I still need some time to be ready for it. That said, if Hiruzen decides against my well-being, I should take that risk. It might allow me to escape from Konoha very easily." While Fujin was moving at full speed through the forests in the Land of Fire, a message was sent back to Kumogaku-rei to the 4th Reikage. The coded scroll was decoded, and the translated message was sent to A. Opened the scroll and began reading. Soon, anger appeared on his face. He raised his arm and smashed his table into 2 while yelling, "What the hell are these guys doing?" Mabui had seen her do such acts hundreds of times. She wasn't affected and calmly asked, "What happened?" Lord Reikage handed her the scroll and said in disappointment, "They ambushed 5 Konoha ninjas with 58 ninjas and still lost 13 ninjas and had many more injured. Not to mention, they still let 2 Konoha ninjas escape." Mabui was surprised by what I said. She wondered, which strong squad did they encounter to have such losses? She quickly checked the scroll to see who the Konoha ninjas were. She was surprised once again. She asked in confusion, "Who is Tamatis?" I looked at her and said, "It's your job to tell me." She felt awkward hearing A's reply. She stopped reading the scroll, handed it back to A, and quickly excused herself and checked their records. Mabui returned after a few minutes and said, "Tamatis is an elite chunin in Konoha. He was promoted to the chunin rank after the Third Great Ninja War. But his record isn't stellar enough to produce such a result." I said, "It wasn't his doing." Hari said that a young ninja was able to hold his own against Dari and is an expert in wind manipulation. He was the main reason for the casualties. Find who this brat is, as they didn't know his identity. Mabui thought for a bit and said, "In the tuning exam that happened before the last one in Konoha, the champion was an orphan who specialized in wind manipulation. It was when the Kiri rebels had participated in the tuning exam. Other than him, I haven't heard of any young ninja who specializes in wind manipulation from Konoha." I thought for a bit and instructed, "Find his name and pass it to the negotiators. Send the negotiators that we have prepared to Konoha and ask for heads of Tamatis and that brat. Also send a message to Darui and call him C and Samui back, and don't let this news leak." Mabui nodded and left the office. Chapter 208 Countering Schemes with Schemes. A frown formed on Raikage's face as he analysed. Such losses would increase opposition to starting a new war. If those oppositions delay us, then we will lose this window of opportunity. The best way to regain the morale is to make Hiruzen hand over those two ninjas. It'll show how weak Konoha is to everyone. I managed to make him cower the last time. I'll do it once again. Mabui did her job efficiently. She handed the leader of negotiators a letter from Raikage. Within an hour, a group of negotiators left Kumugakure along with an escort group. They would first stop at the Chakra metal mine where the conflict happened to confirm the report they sent back, and then send the Raikage's letter to Konoha to set up a meeting and place their demands. It was nighttime when the negotiators left Kumugakure. Their group had a few civilians, so the group moved much slower as compared to a ninja squad. Meanwhile, Raikage began preparing his army in Kumugakure so that they could move at a moment's notice. Fujin was unaware that his fears had partially come true. He traveled the entire night and reached Konoha at 7 in the morning. As soon as he entered Konoha, Fujin maintained a sad expression on his face. He immediately went to the Hokage's building and went to Hiruzen's office. He knocked on the door. Hiruzen heard and said, "Come in." Fujin entered. He saw a lot of papers and files on Hiruzen's table. Takao was present as well and was arranging them. In addition, 4 Ambu ninjas were hiding in the room. Hiruzen was surprised to see Fujin so soon. He had talked with Renjiro the day before and was surprised to learn that all the seals on Fujin's house were inscribed by Fujin himself. While he was happy to know how talented Fujin was, he couldn't help but think about what he had told Fujin when Fujin had asked for the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. He thought, Tamatis's message said that the mission might take weeks. Why is he here so soon? Did the mission go wrong, or did he want to send a secret message? He asked, "Did something happen, Fujin? Close the door and tell me." Fujin closed the door and began reporting. He began speaking slowly in a sad voice and watery eyes. "Grandpa, we were ambushed during our mission. Inuzuka Tadashi and his ninja dog Kenta were killed. Aburami Katsumi and Hatak Ryota are missing. Squad leader Sarutari Tamatis was injured and lost his left leg." Hiruzen and Takao immediately became very serious, though for different reasons. Takao had been on edge due to the Uchiha massacre. Meanwhile, Hiruzen knew about the real nature of the mission. Hiruzen calmly said, "Fujin, stay calm and tell me everything properly. Don't miss a single detail." Fujin took a deep breath and said, "Our mission was to the land of hot water. It was issued by Matsushita Yusuke, a noble from that country. He said that he had discovered a mine in his territory and suspected that it was a chakra metal mine." Takao and the Ambu in the room were shocked to hear that. A chakra metal mine could very well cause a war. Fujin continued, "We moved quickly towards the area that Yusuke had marked. However, when we reached very close to it, we were ambushed by more than 50 Kumogakure ninjas. They first encircled us with 20 ninjas. Another 30 ninjas stayed a bit away to form a second ring of encirclement. A few more ninjas were hiding their chakras. I am not sure how many, but there were at least 3. All were at Chunin or Junin ranks." Everyone was surprised on hearing it. They couldn't help but wonder how Fujin made it out alive. Fujin continued, "When we tried to escape the first encirclement, they killed Tadashi and Kenta. However, they got too aggressive and were hit by Tamatis and my Firewind combination jutsu. 8 of them died, while the other 12 were injured. We tried to escape once again but were intercepted once again and forced to split up. I am not sure what happened with Ryota and Katsumi after that. I was attacked by Dari. The group's eyes widened once again hearing Darui's name. Hiruzen thought. That's the kid and his father trained personally. Though he isn't as reputed as Kakashi, he is the leader of their young generation. Fujin continued. A few more Kumo ninjas attacked me along with him, but I managed to kill one, fatally injure another, and keep the rest at bay and entered a deadlock against Darui. I tried defeating him, but he was very strong. He dodged all attacks and didn't give me any opportunity to escape. After a few minutes, Tomatis entered our battlefield and collapsed unconscious. Darui stopped fighting while I checked on Tomatis. However, I was surrounded by 18 ninjas. They lowered their guard since I was probably the only one left, so I used a few hundred explosive tags to buy some time and escaped while carrying Tomatis with me. I am not sure if the explosions caused any casualties, but I didn't sense anyone chasing after me. Right now, Tomatis is being treated in a patrol camp. He asked me to rush to the village to pass all the information to you. Hiruzen and others were shocked by what Fujin had done during this mission. Hiruzen analyzed. Surviving a fight against Darui at his age without any visible injuries is very impressive. Not to mention, being able to escape after being surrounded by 18 ninjas. The others too had similar thoughts. Fujin saw the expressions of Hiruzen and Taka and was satisfied with their expressions. He had intentionally told how impressive he had been and how much potential he had. This way Hiruzen would be very reluctant to sacrifice him. Hiruzen asked Fujin more questions. Fujin answered them all. He took every opportunity to mention his achievements, without exaggerating them or coming on as a Shalford. He also intentionally called Hiruzen Grandpa to evoke whatever emotions Hiruzen had. After getting all the data, Hiruzen said, "It's unfortunate what happened to your squad, but you have done a good job. Saving one teammate and coming back alive in such a hopeless situation is very good. For now, go back and get some rest, and don't take any new missions. I might call you back after some time." Fujin nodded and said, "All right, Grandpa, I'll take my leave." He left the office. He left towards his home while thinking, "I did all I could think of. I hope that the worst-case scenario doesn't occur." After Fujin left, Hiruzen began staring at the map in front of him. Takao said, "Lord Hoka," and however Hiruzen said, "Keep the files and paperwork related to the Uchiha clan away for now." Takao thought, "That's not what I wanted to talk on." However, he realized that Hiruzen didn't want to be disturbed. So he moved all the paperwork and files away from his desk. Hiruzen observed the map while analyzing the situation. He analyzed. On the surface, it looks like Kumogakure found this mine and wanted to mine it secretly. Fujin and his team were just unlucky to have taken this mission. But knowing Kumogakure's actions after Minato's death, I doubt it is so simple. Be it the Hyuga incident or their prisoners showing up as bandits, both were completely unprovoked aggression towards Konoha. So is a scheming once again? He kept analyzing. Why did Kumogakure send over 50 ninjas for a simple ambush? Just Darui's squad could have easily defeated them, even assuming that they set a perimeter around the mine. Tomatis's group should have been better at sensing. They wouldn't be ambushed if it was unanticipated. Suddenly, an idea entered Hiruzen's. He analyzed it to see how viable it was. After calculating, he let out a long sigh. That's why Darui was present. They aren't there to guard the mine, but he is leading the vanguard army. There should be a lot more ninjas assembled at the mine. I guess they didn't anticipate Fujin to be able to bring back the news. No, he said that no one chased him. So though they didn't anticipate such a fight back from him, they wanted him to deliver the news back to me. They want to see my reaction. Hiruzen began putting the pieces together. If their plan was to test my response, they would first need to cause Konoha losses. Yusuke should be working with them. I doubt the entire land of hot water will be involved as they have suffered a lot due to Kumogakure, so it is probably just him. Either Kumogakure threatened him or he has ambitions of his own. After Tomatis' squad died, Yusuke would have sent us more mission requests and baited more ninjas to their death. Kumo would then threaten me and see my response. Now their plans will be disrupted. If I am right, I will now send a negotiator to Konoha, asking me to compensate them for the loss and perhaps ask for Tomatis and Fujin as well. Hiruzen's face kept getting more and more ugly as he unraveled Kumogakure's plan. He snorted. The Hyuga incident worked in your favor because I never anticipated such a disgusting act. Do you think that such a scheme will work against Konoha again? Hiruzen said, all of you summon 7 ambush squads, along with another 3 ambush squads made of former root ninjas, and return here quickly. Takao, bring Kakashi here. The 4 ambu ninjas hiding in his office flickered and got to work. Takao nodded and left the office as well. Hiruzen grabbed a scroll and began writing in it. After writing the message, he closed the scroll and sealed it. He weaved hand signs and slammed his hand on the desk. A monkey appeared in front of him. Hiruzen handed him the scroll and said, "Deliver this scroll as soon as you can. Preferably do it today." The monkey took the scroll and checked it. He said in a childish voice, "Got it." He disappeared in smoke along with the scroll. Soon, 13 Ambu ninjas showed up in Hiruzen's office. One of them hid back in the room. Hiruzen passed a scroll to them and said, "In the land of hot water, there is a noble called Matsushita Yusuke. His details are in the scroll. Kill him and everyone with him. Burn every document in his mansion, and don't leave any evidence behind. Preferably use lightning jutsus to destroy some property before escaping." One of the Ambu ninjas accepted the scroll. Hiruzen passed them more instructions. They took their leave. Soon another group of Ambu arrived. This time, there were 31 ninjas. 12 of them were formally en route. Hiruzen assigned another mission to them. After understanding the assignment, they left the office as well. Finally, Kakashi and Takao arrived at the office. Kakashi was just dismissed from the Ambu by Hiruzen a few days ago. Hiruzen looked at Kakashi and said seriously, "Kakashi, I'll provide you with 200 ninjas. I want you to lead them towards the border with the land of hot water. You have 2 objectives. First, keep the existence of your force a secret. No one should be aware of your movements. Second, do a few drills to make the force prepared for war." Kakashi was surprised by the order. He asked, "Lord Hokage, did an incident occur?" Hiruzen nodded. He briefed Kakashi on what Fujin had reported. Kakashi understood the situation and sighed. "They want to make a move because the Uchiha clan no longer exists, right?" Hiruzen nodded and said, "It's unlikely that a war will happen, but I want us to be prepared just in case." Kakashi asked, "Can I take Guy along with me?" Hiruzen nodded. "Sure." Kakashi said, "All right, I'll contact him. We will be ready to leave immediately." Hiruzen replied, "Good, I'll arrange for the ninjas to join up with you." Kakashi left to meet up with Guy while Hiruzen got busy arranging 200 ninjas to go along with Kakashi. Fortunately, he already had everyone on high alert due to the Uchiha massacre. He was able to get it done very quickly. Chapter 209 Hiruzen's Never-Ending Schemes. Though Hiruzen received the message almost half a day later than the Ambu squads he dispatched moved much faster than Kumogakurei's negotiator group. Under the cover of the night, Kakashi left Konoha along with Guy and 200 ninjas. They disappeared into the vast never-ending forests in the Land of Fire. A few hours later, 3 Ambu squads arrived outside Yusuke's mansion. No one in the hidden hot springs village detected them. Yusuke was sleeping in his bed. He had a smile on his face as he dreamt about being the new daimyo of the Land of Hot Water. As Hiruzen had guessed, he was working together with Kumogakurei. He wanted their support to overthrow the current daimyo. In return, he will help them kill Konoha's ninjas and will remove Konoha's influence on the country after he becomes the daimyo. Unfortunately for him, an Ambu ninja appeared next to him while he slept. He grabbed a tanto and pierced it into Yusuke's heart, leaving him permanently in the dream world. Yusuke died without knowing who killed him and how. In a few minutes, everyone in the mansion was killed. Not a single being was left alive. Instead, blood was flowing on the ground. The Ambu also burned or confiscated all the documents. After confirming that their work is done, they destroyed the pillars supporting the mansion with lightning jutsus and escaped. The village, which was resting peacefully, suddenly woke up due to loud noise. However, before anyone could figure out what was happening, the Ambu ninjas had already escaped. They kept moving towards the Land of Frost. The daimyo of the Land of Hot Water was woken up due to the massacre and destruction. He reached Yusuke's destroyed mansion and frowned. He had found a chakra metal mine a week ago, and he is already dead. He had said that he will employ Konoha ninjas. Is this their work? Daimyo analyzed for a bit before concluding. No, this isn't the way the Hokage acts usually. Besides, why would he even do this when we were offering Konoha the most benefits? At that time, Takashita Tokuhi appeared in front of the daimyo and reported, "Lord Daimyo, everyone in the mansion, including Lord Yusuke, has been killed. They're all killed with swords. From their wounds, it doesn't seem like they even had a chance to struggle. The documents are all destroyed, though we don't know if some of them have been stolen. And the pillars have been destroyed with lightning jutsus." Daimyo asked, "Lightning? Do you mean that Kumogakurei is behind this?" Tokudi answered, "It's either them or someone who wants to frame them." Daimyo analyzed the situation. This sort of activity is something Kumogakurei would do. Did they find the mine as well? If so, it would make sense that they want to silence Yusuke and secretly mine the mine themselves. but such a thing is impossible to be kept a secret. Are they planning to wage another war in my country? The daimyo frowned. He said, Tokugi, come with me. He brought Tokugi to his own office and told him about the mine in Yusuke's province. Tokugi was shocked. He exclaimed, there is a chakra metal mine in our country. The daimyo corrected him, a mine that might have some deposits of it. The quantity won't be much, but it might be sufficient to cause a war. Tokugi frowned. He said with a bitter expression, our country will be ravaged once again. The daimyo nodded. That is why I wanted to keep it a secret. I suspect that the mine has been taken over by other forces. Most likely by Kumogakure. I want you to lead a force of 15 ninjas there stealthily and check. You are not to engage in any combat. After you confirm, leave immediately and return back. Tokugi nodded. He left and immediately assembled a team and went towards the area the daimyo had instructed him to. In a couple of hours, they reached the location of the mine. However, they stopped a long distance away from the mine and kept an eye. An hour later, they saw someone move. They followed that person secretly and noticed 3 squads of Kumogakure ninjas. The Kumogakure ninjas spotted them as well and raised an alarm. Tokugi and his squad immediately escaped. Some Kumo ninjas gave chase but stopped when they entered too deep into the land of hot water. A few hours later, after taking multiple detours, they returned to the capital. Tokugi immediately reported to the daimyo. The daimyo's face became grim as he confirmed his fears. He immediately began writing letters. The content of the letters included the fact that they have discovered a mine that might have minute deposits of chakra metal. It also mentioned the fact that Kumogakure had forcefully occupied the mine and is hunting everyone who goes there. He sent these letters to every daimyo and every kage except the Reikage. When Hiruzen received the letter the following morning, a smile formed on his face. He thought, the result of killing Yusuke was exactly what I envisioned and desired, though Kiri is in a mess and might not make a move. Suna and Iya will not want to see such a mine in the hands of Kumogakure. The villagers and daimyos still remember the trauma of the last war, so they wouldn't want a new war. Everyone will apply pressure on Kumogakure. If they step back, then the control of this mine should be handed to the Land of Iron. If they don't, then they will have to face the combined might of all villagers. Both the scenarios are favorable for Konoha. In order to ensure that his speculations come true, Hiruzen wrote a letter to the Land of Iron's leader, Mifune. The letter stated Konoha's desire for peace and its support for having the Land of Iron mining the newly discovered mine as a neutral country. The second group of 7 Ambu squads sent by Hiruzen headed straight towards the Land of Lightning. Though the trip took longer, they infiltrated the Land of Lightning. Before the group of negotiators left the country, they stayed far away from Kumogakure. Instead, they disguised themselves and mixed among the common people. Yuga was among these Ambu ninjas. She transformed herself into a middle-aged woman and went into the market. She began buying groceries as normal. As she did, she began having short interactions with the other ladies in the market who were also buying groceries. During one such conversation, she sighed and said, I heard that Reikage-sama wants to start a war with Konohagaka. The lady was surprised. A couple more around them heard her as well. She asked, he does. Haven't we been very peaceful lately? Yugo nodded and said, I heard that he sent 60 ninjas to the Land of Hot Water to kill 5 Konoha ninjas. However, they were defeated by an 11-year-old kid. 13 of our brave ninjas died due to it. The other ladies were shocked to hear it. They joined the conversation. Is it true? Yugo nodded and said, yeah, my husband used to work in Lord Rekage's office. He still has some contacts there. I'm worried that if we suffered so much at the hands of just an 11-year-old kid, how many losses will we have against the whole might of Konoha? The scenario Yugo painted shocked the ladies. They talked a bit more before leaving. Yugo quickly changed her disguise and went to another market. In the same way, all the other 27 Ambu ninjas spread misinformation in the villages in the Land of Lightning. They hyped up Fujin's actions while making everyone think subconsciously that Kumo's forces were weak. A few even propagated the fear of Konoha invading the Land of Lightning if the Wreckage went to war. Slowly, the people who heard the information began gossiping with the ones who hadn't. The news spread through the entire Land of Lightning like a raging wildfire, igniting conversations and emotions of common people. As the rumors spread, they became more and more preposterous. Fear spread among the people in the Land of Lightning. Unfortunately for her, he would remain unaware of this development until it was too late. While the Ambu ninjas were doing their task, a monkey was roaming in the Land of Rice. He had been searching for a man for 2 days. Finally, he managed to locate him. The area was a complete mess. It looked as if someone had blown up an underground base. The monkey landed next to the man and handed him the scroll. He said in his childish voice, "Lord Hokage wants you to act on this immediately." The man opened the scroll and read its contents. His eyes widened before returning to their usual size. He sighed and said, "Another war. All right, tell him that I'll get it done." Chapter 210 A Natural Calamity. The monkey ended his summoning and disappeared into a cloud of smoke. The man looked in the direction of the land of hot water. His location was already quite close to the land of hot water. He sighed once again and began moving towards the land of hot water. Within a few hours, he reached the area where the Kumo ninjas had set up a perimeter. He began sensing the area and scratched his chin while planning. A sensei's analysis was on point. There are over 250 ninjas from Kumogakure over here. Now, how should I deal with them? He formulated a plan and decided to stay hidden until the night. None of the Kumogakure ninjas noticed him. The Kumogakure ninjas had a change in leadership. Hari still stayed as the advisor, as this was his idea. But Daruisi and Samui were called back to Kumogakure. Instead, 2 elite Junins were sent to replace them. Soon it was night. The Kumo ninjas changed shifts. Round 60 ninjas began manning the perimeter while the others went to sleep. The Kumo ninjas guarding the mine hadn't faced much threat. Hari had kept their losses against Fujin's squad a secret from them, and other than a local squad spotting them and running away, there wasn't any other incident, so the ninjas were very relaxed. However, they suddenly heard a sound. They quickly looked above and were shocked. In the night sky, a huge shadow could be seen hiding among the clouds. One ninja gulped and asked, "What is that?" The ninja next to him replied, "It looks like a toad shadow. But how can a toad fly?" Another said, "Wake up Hari-sama," and others quickly, "They need to see this." However, they suddenly felt raindrops falling down on their faces. Just a second later, their eyes widened. They watched in horror as massive fire rained down on their entire base. A minute ago, Jiraiya summoned the giant toad Gamabunta and jumped high into the sky. They got right on top of the mine. Gamabunta released a huge oil jutsu that covers the entire mine. Meanwhile, Jiraiya made a clone and used strong fire and wind jutsus at the same time. The Kumo ninjas didn't expect such a massive attack. Over 180 ninjas were asleep due to it being late in the night. All of them were hit by the massive attack. A few felt the heat and woke up. Unfortunately, before they could figure out what was happening and defend themselves, they were engulfed by fire and boiling oil. They didn't even have a chance to defend themselves and died screaming in the fire. Kumogakure's advisor Hari also caught on fire along with the rest. He tried calculating what was happening and how his excellent plans turned into such a disaster. Unfortunately, he would die before reaching a conclusion. The ninjas who were on patrol too wasn't strong enough to defend against such an attack. A majority of them died without forming any jutsus. A few used defensive jutsus, but the huge scale of the jutsu meant that they didn't last even a few seconds. Only a dozen or so ninjas managed to escape underground. Unfortunately, as soon as they escaped into the ground turned into a swamp. All of them were trapped in it. Soon, the hot oil mixed in the swamp. They had the worst fate among all the Kumo ninjas, as they slowly felt their surroundings heating up and cooking their bodies. A few yelled in terror, however. The swamp poured into their mouths and gagged them when they opened it to yell. Gamabunta landed a bit away from all the fire. The trees in the vicinity were destroyed due to his landing. A massive fire was spreading through the area. At the same time, it began raining heavily. Jiraiya asked, "Bunta, are any of them alive?" Gamabunta replied, "A few in the swamp are still struggling, though they should die soon." He looked at Jiraiya and asked, "Is it already the start of the fourth great ninja war?" Jiraiya replied, "Sensei said no. I guess he wanted this to be done to prevent it. We have to extinguish all our traces before leaving and make it seem like a natural calamity or an accident." Gamabunta complained, "So we'd have to now douse this entire fire?" Jiraiya replied, "Yes, and we also have to destroy this mine." Gamabunta sighed. Soon, the last of the Kumo ninjas died. Gamabunta jumped into the sky once again and shot huge water bullets down at the mine. The water bullet doused the raging fire. The power behind the water bullet damaged the mine as well. Gamabunta repeated this a few more times until the entire mine collapsed. The dead bodies of Kumo ninjas were already cremated by the fire. Whatever was left was crushed by the powerful water bullets. When the mines collapsed, the camps and the remains of all the Kumo ninjas were buried deep within the mine. It would be difficult to distinguish their ashes from the soil. Even the swamp that Jiraiya's clone had created was destroyed by the water bullets. Half an hour later, Jiraiya and Gamabunta observed the mining site. It was completely wrecked. There were no signs of human settlements. Instead, it looked as if God had condemned this place. The ground was sinking into the mine, and the entire area was flooded with water. The rains had intensified, and lightning was striking occasionally. Satisfied with the destruction, Gamabunta went back to Mount Myoboku while Jiraiya escaped. The entire mine had been destroyed, and not a single person knew what happened there. The ninjas from the Land of Hot Water were asked to stay clear of this place. The daimyo didn't want to take any unnecessary casualties. However, there were 12 people who were staying in the surrounding villages who noticed the anomalies happening around the area of the mine. They immediately rushed towards the mine. While rushing, those 12 ninjas met with each other and went together. When they reached the location, shock could be seen on their faces. However, soon their faces returned to normal. One of them said, "This is exactly like Lord Hokage said it would be." The others nodded. This group was the 3 ambush squads that destroyed Yusuke's mansion a couple of nights ago. One of them said, "It's time to execute the next step of the mission." They immediately rushed towards the Land of Frost. The remaining 7 ambush squads who were spreading rumors in the Land of Lightning had completed their task and withdrawn to a location in the Land of Frost. The group of 3 ambush squads who were rushing into the Land of Frost were heading exactly to that location, as directed by Hiruzen. On meeting up, the ambu who witnessed the havoc that Jiraiya had left told the rest about the destruction they had witnessed. After telling all the specifics, all 40 ambu ninjas headed back towards the Land of Lightning. They infiltrated the Land of Lightning once again with the same mission but different rumors. Once again, the ambu ninjas began spreading a variety of rumors in various disguises and in numerous villages. All of them said that their great lord Raikage had found a chakra metal mine. They said that the mine would make Kumogaku-rei the strongest ninja village in the world. However, the following part was reported differently by the ambu ninjas. Round half of them said that the other villages weren't happy and were afraid of how ambitious the Raikage was. So the 4th Mizukage showed up with his elite ninjas and killed all Kumo ninjas who were protecting the mine. He still wasn't satisfied, so he transformed into the 3-tailed beast abomination and destroyed the entire mine. Some said that the gods were angered by how power-hungry the Raikage was. So they decided to punish Kumogaku-rei for his crimes by unleashing a catastrophic calamity on the mine and the ninjas guarding that mine. A couple of ambu said that the 11-year-old boy who had earlier killed 60 Kumo ninjas was angry that Kumogaku-rei killed his teammates. So he returned to destroy the mine and slaughter everyone. In this way, multiple imaginative rumors were spread throughout the country. The common citizens were intrigued and worried by such news. They could not help but discuss it further among themselves. In no time, these rumors began spreading alongside the previous rumors, unknown to him, as reputation kept taking a hit. Round the time that the ambu ninjas infiltrated the Land of Lightning again, Mabui headed into the Raikage's office. Her face was grim. Chapter 211's Rage noticed Mabui's expression, and a frown formed on his face. Mabui said, "Raikage-sama, we have bad news." Asked, "What happened this time?" Mabui said, "Various rumors are spreading throughout the country about the clash between Konoha ninjas and our forces." I shouted in anger, "What? I told you to keep it a secret. How did that information spread?" Mabui quickly answered, "I kept it a secret. I am sure that Advisor Hari did too. I did some analysis and I believe that the rumors haven't started in our village. Instead, they have entered our village from the outside." Asked, "What do you mean by outside?" Mabui said, "I believe that someone is spreading the rumors in other villages in our country. The rumors reached our village while spreading through them." I was stunned. However, he soon realized. He got angry and once again smashed his desk while shouting, "That damned Hiruzen." Mabui sighed in her mind thinking, "I just replaced that old desk." However, she agreed with his analysis. She too believed that Konoha was spreading these rumors. She said, "Raikage-sama, the rumors themselves are worrying. While some rumors say the truth, a majority of them say that our 60 ninja force was defeated by one young Konoha ninja. Some even say that they were defeated by a kid who hadn't even graduated yet from the academy." His eyes widened, his rage grew further. He stood up. A lightning cloak appeared around him as he cursed. "First those bastards spread rumors and then they dare to defame us." Before he could speak more, Mabui said, "That's not all, Raikage-sama. There is another worrying situation." Asked, "What else?" Mabui said, "I haven't received any communications from Advisor Hari. His report should have arrived a couple of hours ago." I calmed down and became serious on hearing that. He had sent 2 elite Junin, dozens of Junins, more than 200 Chunins, and an advisor to the mine. If anything happened to them or the mine, then the losses would be severe. He didn't want to act on emotions on such a serious matter. He said, the messenger birds could get lost at times. Are you sure that it is something to be worried about? Mabui replied. I just have a bad feeling, Raikage-sama thought for a bit and said, wait till this afternoon. If Hari doesn't send a message once more, then have Daruri's team check on them. In the meantime, arrange for some ninjas to explore the villages in our country. Eliminate any of those Konoha scum spreading rumors. Mabui nodded and immediately left. She informed Daruri's group to be ready, and she dispatched a dozen squads to scout the country for anyone spreading the rumors. The Ambu from Konoha were aware that they would be suspected this time. So they just spread rumors for around 6 hours before escaping. The Kumagoku-rei ninjas had to search the huge country and didn't know where to start. So the Ambu ended up escaping even before the Kumagoku-rei ninjas reached anywhere close to them, having completed their mission successfully. All 10 squads left the Land of Lightning safely and began returning to Konoha. As day kept on getting worse, a lot of elders and clan leaders kept visiting him asking about the rumors spreading through the village, though they had passively agreed earlier. The losses made them rethink their positions. They didn't want to fight a war if their losses would be horrendous. I had to pacify them all and tell them the exact details of the clash. His frustration grew with every meeting. At noon, Mabui returned to his office. She was about to report but stopped seeing how terrible his mood was. I noticed her and said, get on with it and tell me what more bad news you have. Mabui reported, Raikage-sama, Hari hasn't sent the message once again. I have dispatched Daruri's squad to check on them. I thought about what to say, but no words left his mouth. He was tired of dealing with all the shit on the same day. He had continuous meetings all morning and hadn't even had the time to have breakfast. He got up and said, all right, you handle the matter. Mabui saw as Raikage walked towards the wall behind him. He formed a fist and punched a new door in the wall. Mabui watched with a deadpan expression, thinking, I knew it. She asked, where are you going, Raikage-sama? I said, I need a break. I will be sparring with B. If anyone has any complaints or worries, send them there if they dare to come. He immediately disappeared. Normally, Mabui would chuckle whenever this happens. Whenever I was overburdened by village politics, he would go to B and fight against his tailed beast form. No elder or clan head or advisor would dare to go close to their fight. It was his way of telling them to shut their mouths and demonstrating his and his brother's power. Unfortunately, Mabui couldn't chuckle. She was troubled by the situation herself. She sighed. What a mess. We haven't even started the war yet and just made 2 moves and still have to deal with such a headache. We underestimated Konoha due to the previous incident. I hope that nothing bad happens again. B was writing a few rap lines in his book when A landed in front of him with a huge force and sent dust flying. I looked at B and said, B, we are sparring. Use your full strength. B had heard the rumors going around in the village. He knew that A would be extremely frustrated. He said, yo, brother, what's good? You look mad stressed, man. Come spar with your brother B and let's ease that tension. I was even more annoyed due to B's rapping. He immediately activated his lightning chakra mode. At the same time, Juki's giant octopus tentacles appeared behind B as he transformed into Juki. Both began sparring at their full power. Their spar continued through the entire afternoon and destroyed a few mountains while creating a few new valleys. After ending the spar, they went to B's home for a late lunch. The spar and the break from others helped to relax, but B could still see that he was worried and his mind wasn't on the food he was eating. In order to get it off his mind, B asked, so what's the dealio? Why you looking like you just saw a ghost or something? I sighed and explained the situation. He explained his plan to start a new war with Konoha, Hirizen's tactics and annoyance caused by the elders and clan leaders from their village. B nodded and said, oh snap, now that is quite a mess indeed, but you still want to push forward, huh? I nodded and said, it is for our village's prosperity. B argued, I feel you, but let me ask you this, do we need to keep being so aggressive? The village has been chilling lately. Why not take a step back and enjoy the peace? I said, this peace is only temporary. A new great war will eventually start. Konoha and Suna are in an alliance. If Konoha manages to convince Awa and Kiri to make a move against us, we will be in a tough spot. Anyways, I have to leave. I can't leave the office for too long. Having finished his food, I began leaving. B looked at his back and said, just remember, brother, even if something goes wrong, we got each other's backs. We'll fix it together. I smiled and nodded before disappearing. He soon appeared in his office. However, his smile disappeared even before he entered his office. He entered his office from the same hole that he created and saw every elder, clan head and advisor in his office waiting for him. He looked at Mubri, who had a helpless expression on her face. Before I could say anything, an old man asked, "Lord Rakage, is it about time for you to inform us about the important events, or do you plan to keep us in the dark until the very end?" I frowned. Though he didn't always inform others about his plans, he was confused about why they decided to gather together and confront him. More importantly, the identity of the old man was very sensitive. He was Inazuma, an advisor to his father, the third Rakage. He asked, "What do you mean?" Mubri stepped forward and informed Rakage-sama, "Some of the ninjas I dispatched returned back to the village. They said that there are a lot more rumors spreading around in the country." Lasked, "It's just some rumors. I can understand common people being scared of them. But why are you giving it unnecessary attention?" Inazuma said, "It is due to the nature of those rumors. Though some of them are ridiculous, all of them say one thing in common." Inazuma stopped speaking and observed his expression. Unfortunately, he couldn't gauge what A was thinking. A waited for a few seconds and shouted aggressively, "Stop testing me, and just speak." Inazuma said, "They say that all the ninjas we sent to the mine have been wiped out. The mine itself has also been destroyed." I was stunned. Chapter 212 Elite Junin Promotion. Immediately shouted, "Who is spreading such nonsense?" Mubri replied, "I believe it's the same group that spread the earlier rumors." Rakage-sama, Inazuma interrupted their conversation and said, "Stop speaking among yourself and tell us whether it is the truth or not. Losing 255 ninjas will be a huge loss even during wartime. We have never ever had such a loss during peacetime." I looked at Mubri and said, "Inform them." Everyone in the room got a bit nervous. As they expected, A was hiding something. Mubri said, "We haven't received any communications from Hari since this morning. I have dispatched Dari's squad to check whether they are fine. We will need to wait until they return to find out if something has happened or if the communications have been cut off somehow." The room got restless on hearing that. They began feeling that those ridiculous rumors had some truth to them. One of the elders complained, How can you hide such huge news from us?" I snorted. "Messages not reaching is a very common thing. I didn't think there was anything to be concerned about. You old fellows need to stop wasting your and my time on the rumors Hiruzen is spreading, and instead prepare for war." However, Inazuma argued, "First we need to know the truth of this incident. If our ninjas have all been killed, then we won't support the war. Instead, our focus should be on getting justice for the lives of our ninjas." Every leader in the room agreed with him. They discussed important matters for some time before ending the meeting. After they left, A's rage went through the roof. Mubui quickly said, "Calm down, Rakage-sama," A said. "These old cowards are the reason why I couldn't launch a full-scale offensive against Konoha during the Hudi incident. These bastards will stop me again this time, too." Anger could be felt in his voice. He looked at Mubui and said, "Send a few more squads after Dari. Hiruzen must be scheming something to spread rumors like these." Mubui nodded and left. Later that day, the negotiator group that had left Kumogaku-rei a few days ago reached the location of the mine. However, they were shocked by what they were witnessing. One of them asked, "Hey, isn't this place supposed to be a mine?" The person next to him nodded. "It is, and more than 250 ninjas are supposed to be guarding it." The ninjas in the group immediately began inspecting the place. They searched a lot but didn't find a single ninja on the site. The mine was destroyed as well. They immediately began sending messages to Kumogaku-rei. After sending messages, they moved away quite a distance from the site and set up a camp. The entire group was highly alert. Round the same time, a small toad landed in Hiruzen's office and handed him a scroll. Hiruzen opened and read it. A small smile formed on his face. He said, "Takao, call Fujin here, and you can go home." Takao nodded and left. Hiruzen analyzed. "Now every move I planned has been played. His position will be a mess. He shouldn't be able to start a war. If he tries to blame Konoha, I will refuse the fact that we took any such mission to the mine. The only loose end is that he might have the dead bodies of Katsumi and Ryota. If he does, he can use them as evidence. Though even if he does, I can think of a dozen methods to turn that against him and turn the situation in our favor." Although it was getting late, Fujin was still in the training ground. Sweat could be seen on his face, and his breath was heavy. Fujin calmed himself down and bit his thumb, making it bleed. He made the snake hand seal once again and slammed his hands on the ground. A summoning jutsu Rashomon, a large gate with a frightening demonic face on it, appeared from the ground in front of Fujin. Fujin began breathing heavily once again, but a smile could be seen on his face. He thought, "Great, I managed to successfully summon it 5 times in a row. This jutsu can be considered as being learnt." He made a hand seal and a shadow clone appeared next to him. The clone flickered on the other side of the gate and shot a vacuum cannon at it. The vacuum cannon hit the gate right at the center. It caused a small dent in the Rashomon gate up, couldn't break through it. Fujin was surprised. He analyzed. I didn't think that this jutsu would be able to make a dent in Rashomon. Is my Rashomon weaker? Fujin thought for a while but couldn't reach any conclusion. He thought, the only memories of Rashomon I have are Orochimaru and Hashirama using it. Both are in a different league compared to me, and they were trying to stop Kurama's attacks. Leave it. I haven't seen anything stop my vacuum bullet so far. This strength should be plenty. Fujin suddenly got alert and looked towards his left. His eyes began glowing blue as he thought. What is he doing here? Fujin's clone and the Rashomon gate disappeared. In a few seconds, Takao appeared in his eyesight. Takao saw Fujin and said, Fujin, Hokage-sama has called you to his office. Fujin said, all right. Thank you for delivering the message. Takao observed the training ground. The Rashomon gate had disappeared, but Takao could see how ruined the ground on the training field was and how tired Fujin looked. He said, Fujin, losses happen frequently in our life. Being a ninja is tough. Don't blame yourself or overwork due to it. Otherwise you might hurt yourself. Fujin nodded and replied, thank you Takao-san, I will keep it in mind. Takao nodded and left. Fujin sighed. I am more worried about my life. I can't possibly rest, besides the pressure seems to be good. Rashomon is quite a difficult jutsu. Still, I managed to learn it in less than 3 days. Fujin left towards the Hokage building as he analyzed. Now, what exactly does Hiruzen want from me to call me so late in the night? Fujin arrived in the Hokage building and knocked on the door of Hiruzen's office. Hiruzen said, come in. Fujin entered. Hiruzen was alone in the room. Though Fujin didn't know, even the Amber Ninjas weren't in his office. Fujin said, Takao-san said that you called Grandpa. Hiruzen nodded and said, take a chair and seat in front of me Fujin. I want your opinion on something. Fujin grabbed a chair and placed it in front of the desk. Though his actions were normal, in truth Fujin was very nervous. Hiruzen placed a sheet of paper in front of Fujin as soon as he sat down and said, I received this news a few minutes ago. He placed another sheet of paper on the desk and said, I received this news today as well. Read these 2 papers and tell me your thoughts about them. Fujin was confused by Hiruzen's actions. He had thought of a lot of possibilities, but he never imagined that Hiruzen wanted him to analyze some reports. Fujin grabbed the first sheet of paper and began reading. Immediately his eyes widened at what was written. He looked at Hiruzen in disbelief, but Hiruzen didn't have any expression on his face. Fujin began reading again. The paper mentioned that the chakra metal mine was completely destroyed and no one was around the mine. Fujin immediately began reading the second paper. His expression became peculiar on reading it, as it mentioned the rumors spreading through the land of fire. Fujin easily figured out that they were talking about him. He couldn't help but wonder, I am this awesome. Why didn't I know about it? I don't think that even the children of the Sage of Six Path were this amazing. Reading the 2 sheets of paper relaxed Fujin a lot. He knew that everything on those 2 sheets was planned and executed by Hiruzen. His worries faded away knowing that Hiruzen didn't plan to cower once again. Hiruzen asked, so what are your thoughts on these events, Fujin? Fujin looked into his eyes and said in an innocent tone, Grandpa, if the things written here are true, then you need to promote me to Elite Junin rank immediately and pay me the rewards for a few rank A's missions. Chapter 213 A Sleepless Night. Hiruzen was stunned by the reply. A look of disbelief could be seen on his face. Even his mouth was left slightly open. He guessed that Fujin would figure out that it was his schemes that did this and hence called Fujin to verify his strategic acumen. He expected that Fujin would be awed by his schemes. However, he never expected such a shameless response. Fujin's reply stunned Hiruzen so much that he forgot to breathe for a moment and began coughing. Fujin innocently asked, Grandpa, are you all right? He picked up a water bottle nearby, poured the water into a glass and handed it to Hiruzen. Hiruzen accepted it and drank it. He couldn't help but stare at Fujin and curse. This greedy brat, I should have sent him to Root. I saved Danzo from so much trouble and didn't get anything in return. Meanwhile, Fujin enjoyed the range of emotions displayed on Hiruzen's face. After all, it wasn't often one got to see such emotions on Hiruzen's face. Hiruzen said, jokes aside, what did you analyze? Fujin put up a sad face and replied, I wasn't joking. Hiruzen didn't reply, instead right at him until Fujin felt uncomfortable. Fujin shrugged and said, it was worth a try. Fujin became serious and began analyzing what Hiruzen had shown him. The most obvious thing is that all of these were ordered by you. Hiruzen nodded and asked, why and how did I do this? Fujin answered, I had suspected that Yusuke or perhaps even the daimyo of the land of hot water was allied with Kumo. That is why I didn't escape to their village, despite it being closer, seeing that Yusuke's mansion is destroyed and Kumogaku-rei is suspected. I guess he was involved with Kumogaku-rei. Since he is dead, I guess that it was a punishment for betraying us and causing the deaths of my comrades. As for destroying the mansion, that was done to pin the blame on Kumo. The rumors should have been spread by a special division that specializes in such stuff. Since the report said Land of Lightning and not Kumogaku-rei, I guess that they spread the rumors in villages without any ninjas, and the rumors spread from there on. This should cause panic in the country and put a lot of pressure on the Reikage against starting a war. As for the destruction of the mine, I can see why you did it. I have heard that Kumo's military is very strong, and the location of the mine was closer to them than our village, so we may have been at a disadvantage if we fought a war over it, but I don't know how you could cause such destruction. Hiruzen was impressed by Fujin's analysis. He thought, brilliant. Though some of it was incorrect, the analysis is great considering how young and inexperienced he is. He said, good analysis. You don't need to worry about how the mine was destroyed for now. Your analysis of the rumors was on point. As for the rest, it is lacking in some parts. Hiruzen explained to Fujin the reasoning and intention behind most of his moves without giving Fujin any critical information. Fujin listened carefully. As he kept listening, he was more and more impressed by how clever, cunning, and thorough Hiruzen was. His schemes were planned intricately and came one after another continuously, and his every move made life miserable for her. Fujin almost felt pity for her. All his schemes were recognized by Hiruzen in one glance, and instead, he had to face schemes that were on a whole different tier. Fujin couldn't help but wonder, if he is so good at scheming, why did he take a loss during the Hyuga incident? Were there any other factors involved? Hiruzen let his words sink into Fujin. When he saw Fujin look at him, he said, you have done a great job for the village. If you didn't make it out alive and bring the news to me, I wouldn't have known what they were planning. We may have experienced a lot of losses in that case, Fujin replied with a sad expression. It wasn't just me, Grandpa. Hiruzen nodded and said, it's unfortunate what happened to others. Tomatoes should be brought back to Konoha in a couple of days. As for the rest, remember their sacrifice. As a ninja, you will see many of your comrades die to protect you and the village. Never forget what they sacrificed for you, Fujin. Every time you go to missions and every time you train, remember the ones who sacrificed themselves to protect you. Work so hard that whenever they look down from heaven, they will have a smile on their face knowing that you won't let us feel their absence. Fujin was surprised by Hiruzen's speech. He looked at Hiruzen as if his words made him understand something. Hiruzen was satisfied by Fujin's reaction. However, he might puke in anger if he knew Fujin's thoughts. Fujin was thinking in surprise. This old guy. He doesn't let go of a single opportunity to brainwash and influence others. Fuck, I was only acting to be shameless. I knew he wouldn't promote or reward me. But this guy, shamelessness is buried into each and every cell of this old man. It can never be taken away from him. Hiruzen was blissfully unaware of Fujin's thoughts. He instructed, don't tell anyone about our discussion. No one should know about this. I will talk with Tomatis too. You guys never took the mission to the land of hot water. You guys never went to the chakra metal mine. You never fought with Darui or the others, and you never killed any Kumo ninja. Is that understood? Fujin nodded. He knew the importance of the discussion they had and would obviously not play around with that knowledge, especially since it would also implicate him. Hiruzen said, one last thing, you are not allowed to take any missions that would require you to leave the village. Fujin furrowed his eyebrows. He said, I was planning to take a few months off and train a few jutsus from the library to strengthen myself. But can you tell me why? Hiruzen replied, though we will deny your acts, your name has gained a lot of fame in the land of lightning. They will place a bounty on your head, so leaving the village will become very risky for you. Fujin's eyes widened. He muttered, I forgot about the unk. Hiruzen said, continue training. In a couple of months, I will invite you to join the Ambu ranks. You can take missions with the Ambu as your identity will be hidden. Fujin couldn't help but think, so many surprises in so little time. I never thought that I'd be tired of being surprised, he said. All right, Gramps, Sensei had informed me about the Ambu. I'll keep training until you invite me. Now that the route was dissolved, Fujin had no worries about joining the Ambu. The two bade farewell, and Fujin left. As he walked, he analyzed. What a mess. Still, I am glad that Hiruzen told me about his schemes. They were crazy good and fun. I can imagine the mess that Kumogaku Rei would be in, ha ha ha. Also, Jiraiya and his toads are probably even more impressive than what I remember. After all, mines are supposed to be huge, and there should be a lot of Kumo ninjas defending it. But looking at the confidence with which Hiruzen spoke, it is safe to say that Jiraiya completely wiped them out without getting injured. Though Hiruzen didn't mention Jiraiya. It wasn't difficult for Fujin to figure out that it was him. He ended his thoughts and took a deep breath. A huge pressure was lifted off his shoulders as he knew that his life wasn't under threat anymore. He had a huge meal before going home and taking a nice long and peaceful sleep. Unlike Fujin, one person was guaranteed to have a sleepless and tiring night. I had just gone to bed when he heard someone banging on his door. He got up annoyed and opened the door to see Mubri. Her expression was very grim. Asked, "What's the issue that you have to disturb me at this time?" Mubri didn't say anything and just handed him the scroll, opened it and began reading. His eyes widened as a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He shouted, "What the hell?" Mubri didn't say anything. She too was shocked when she received the communication from the group of negotiators. A quickly instructed, issue a council meeting in 15 minutes. If anyone doesn't show up, I will go wake them up myself. Mubri replied, "I'll arrange it." Reikage Summer. She left and dispatched the ambu to every council member's house. In 15 minutes all gathered in the meeting room in the Reikage's building. Many were annoyed at being woken up at this hour and forced to come to a meeting. When the meeting started, they all aggressively began demanding why they were called. It didn't say anything and just handed them the scroll he received from Mubri. There was a pin-drop silence in the room when they read the details in the scroll. Every single person had a grim face. The silence was broken when someone said the rumors were true. Disbelief could be heard in his voice. However, it corrected him. Only the result was true. We don't know what the cause is. The room became silent once again. After some time, Inazuma said, "Among the three, the rumor of the youngster destroying the mine can be dismissed, and it is very unbelievable that a natural calamity can kill every ninja we sent." I said, "I don't see why the Mizukage would come here to destroy our mine. He already has a revolt to suppress. I believe Hiruzen is trying to confuse us through these rumors." Chapter 214. Daimyo's words. I didn't waste any time blaming Hiruzen for the incidents. The rest of the room agreed with him. After all, the Mizukage was already embroiled in a war. So why would he waste his energy making such a long trip to attract a new enemy? However, a clan leader still had doubts. He asked, "But does Konoha still have the capability to unleash such destruction? After all, their Sanins are away, their Hokage is old, and their Jinwekiriki is still a child. Besides, the destruction caused completely matches the destruction caused by Three Tails' past rampages." However, his point was quickly countered by another. "According to our intel, the Toad Sage Jiraiya manages a spy network throughout the ninja world. Hiruzen contacting him and asking him to make a move so quickly, isn't he far-fetched? Not to mention, his toads can do similar destruction, as mentioned in the report." The group discussed more and reached the conclusion that this was accomplished by Jiraiya. They began discussing what action they should undertake. I kept pushing for a full-scale war. However, the majority of the people in the room tried opposing such a call, though Jiraiya's actions enraged them. They also brought back horrible memories of the war. They didn't want to start a new war. Their discussion soon became heated, and it began getting an upper hand when a knock was heard. The group became silent and frowned. I said, "Come in." The door was opened and a Chunin entered the room. I scolded him. "What is so important that you had to interrupt a council meeting?" The Chunin was intimidated. However, he steeled himself and said, "Lord Reikage, we have received an emergency message from Lord Daimyo." The entire room became alert on hearing that. Frowns formed on many faces. The messenger continued, "He will be visiting our village in the morning and wants to conduct a council meeting as soon as he arrives." His face had a very ugly expression. He asked, "Is that all?" The Chunin nodded. He left the room after I dismissed him. As soon as the door was closed, his eyes wandered into the room. He observed everyone's expressions to see if any of them contacted the daimyo. Unfortunately, he couldn't gauge anything. Inazuma said, "Since we will be having a meeting tomorrow morning once again, it will be better to plan our actions after it." Iz was upset on hearing that. However, his expression improved as Inazuma looked at everyone in the room and said, "It is obvious that everyone in this room will have different opinions. However, don't forget that we are all a part of the same village. We will show a united front to the daimyo. If you have any complaints or disagreements, raise them after he leaves." No one opposed him. The meeting ended. However, all of them would stay up all night to prepare for the meeting that would take place in a few hours. Round the same time the meeting ended, Dari, Samui and C reached the location of the mine. When they saw the scene, they were shocked. C muttered, "What the hell happened here?" Dari had a grim expression. He said, "More importantly, where are Advisor Hari and the rest?" Suddenly, they looked to their right. A Kumagakure ninja appeared next to them. He was from the negotiating group. He brought Darui and the rest to where they were camped and both sides exchanged information. They split into two groups. One group stayed to protect the camp, while the other group began investigating the mine for any clues and began assessing the damage done to the mine. After a thorough investigation, C sighed, "There is no clue related to the ninjas that were stationed here. And the mine is so damaged that it might take more than a year to fix it and begin mining once again." Darui nodded. They sent another report to a while investigating even more. The next morning, the daimyo of the Land of Lightning showed up in Kumagakure. He wasted no time in entering the council room. The council members gathered immediately and began the meeting. The daimyo was an old man. He looked at E and said, "I am guessing that you know why I am here, right?" E said, "Is it due to the rumors?" Daimyo nodded and answered. In part, E snorted, "The rumors are nothing but a ploy played by the Hokage to create panic in our country." Daimyo replied, "I don't doubt that. So can you tell me the truth? Or do you plan to keep me in the dark like the last time?" E's face became dark. The daimyo noticed it and didn't push it any further. Asked, "What do you want to know about?" The daimyo said, "About the mine, the clash with the Konoha ninjas, and whether the mine was destroyed. Also, tell me about your next plans." Not seeing any point in keeping the incidents a secret, he informed the daimyo about the truth of those events. He ended by saying, "As for the plans, we are still deciding. However, I want to invade Konoha and make them regret killing my subordinates." The others in the council frowned but didn't oppose him. The daimyo said, "Right now, every citizen in our country is terrified." He looked at E and said, "They are terrified about your actions. I guess that most of your ninjas are doubting you too. How do you plan to wage a war under these circumstances?" Rage appeared on his face when he heard the daimyo saying that his ninjas might be doubting him. However, before he could explode, Inazuma said, "Lord Daimyo, it's just the rumors that have created confusion. We can easily quell those rumors by starting new rumors and increase our morale through it." The daimyo replied, "True, but which rumors would help you resolve this?" He placed a few letters on the table. Inazuma frowned. The daimyo said, "These are letters that I have received from every other daimyo. The daimyo of Hot Water has complained about you mining in his country illegally. The other daimyos have also condemned your actions." The Kumo ninjas frowned upon hearing that. The daimyo continued, "They will soon be sending their forces to the mine. If they find proof of Kumogakurei's illegal mining activities, then a trade embargo will be placed on the Land of Lightning for 6 months. The mine itself will be handed over to the Land of Iron for mining. They have already sent their samurais over to take control of the mine. The Hokage has expressed his support for this and has promised to send his forces to aid the samurais, though there hasn't been any word from the Tsuchical and Kazakage. Their respective daimyos have promised to send ninjas to the mine, as the chakra metal extracted will be divided equally among the ones who contribute forces to defend the mine." The mood in the room became heavy, as the daimyo kept delivering one bad news after another. The daimyo observed the mood in the room with satisfaction. Finally, he said, "Reikage, I know I can't force you to not wage a war. However, I want you to know what you will be facing if you start a war. At the very least, you will have to face the combined might of the Land of Iron and the Land of Fire in the Land of Hot Water which supports them. In the worst-case scenario, you will even have to face the armies of the Land of Wind and the Land of Stone as well. Additionally, if you wage a war, the trade embargo won't be placed for just 6 months. The daimyo stood up and said, "I would recommend you to extinguish any proof of your activities there and withdraw back. We could join them and gain our share of the chakra metal, and our economy wouldn't have to suffer from the trade embargo. I'll leave the final decision to you." Having said what he wanted to, the daimyo left the room. His officials followed him. He was aware of A's short temper and didn't want to be at the receiving end of it. So he didn't antagonize him too much. The atmosphere in the council room was very gloomy. Though many of them didn't want a war, being forced to stop this way was very humiliating. Even A was troubled, while he was confident about defeating Konoha's armies. He didn't have any confidence in a victory against the combined forces of Konoha and the Land of Iron. The council brainstormed on the available options. They came up with a lot of different ideas. Unfortunately, every single idea was deemed too risky to implement. In the end, they had to swallow a bitter pill and quit. I sent messages to Darui and the negotiating group to get rid of all clues that could point to them and return back to Kumogaku-rei. They followed his instructions. A couple of days after the Kumogaku-rei ninjas left, an army consisting of 1,000 samurais led by Mifune, 200 Konoha ninjas led by Kakashi, and 50 Yugaku-rei ninjas led by Tokui appeared at the site of the mine. Chapter 215 taking all the blame. Just like others before them, this group too was shocked by what they were witnessing. The Land of Hot Water forces didn't dare to approach this place after confirming Kumogaku-rei's presence. Though they heard the news of floods coming out from here, they stayed away from Kumogaku-rei ninjas. So they never knew about the destruction of the mine. Even Kakashi was unaware of the truth, as Hiruzen didn't inform him about Jiraiya's actions. Tokudi analyzed the entire landscape and cursed, "The entire mine has been destroyed by those bastards." Mifune and Kakashi didn't say anything, as they too reached the same conclusion. Mifune sighed, "We will first have to clean up this place and make new arrangements. Though the surface of the mine has been destroyed, the valuable materials inside it should be safe." However, he frowned and said, "But Kumogaku-rei has crossed all limits this time. Not only did they mine illegally, they even destroyed the mine before leaving." Tokudi looked at Mifune and requested, "Lord Mifune, we have to make Kumogaku-rei pay for their actions, otherwise they will keep behaving like this." Mifune thought for a bit before shaking his head. He said, "It won't be easy. I believe that they destroyed this mine to clear all their traces. Without any proof we won't be able to take any action. Besides, though we have threatened Kumogaku-rei, I doubt any of us want a war with them." Kakashi nodded. "Yeah, it's best if war is prevented, otherwise, everyone's losses will far exceed the value of this mine. But we could still make them pay economically," Mifune replied. "True, but let's leave that to the daimyos." He looked at everyone behind them and instructed, "Begin cleaning this place. Also see if you can find any evidence to prove that the Kumogaku-rei forces were here." The samurais and the ninjas got to work. Mifune said, "Clearing up this mine will take a lot of time. I can't wait here that long. I will wait here until all the countries reach an agreement. Once all countries have signed up, every major village will deploy 50 ninjas to protect this mine, and I will leave 200 samurais here for the same." Tokuri and Kakashi nodded. Everyone got to work. However, they didn't find any clues that could be linked to Kumogaku-rei. With the dropping plans for the invasion, all villages agreed to share the mine. The Land of Iron will be responsible for mining and distributing the chakra metal and other precious metals at the same level among the villages that protected the mine. So Konohagaka, Kumogaku-rei, Igawaka, Sunagakuwa and the Land of Iron would get those metals equally. Kirigujka couldn't provide the troops and hence was left out. All these 5 countries would pay half the price of chakra metals to the Land of Hot Water. In addition, Land of Hot Water will get all the normal materials mined from the mine. Later on, A would come to know that everyone blamed him for destroying the mine to cover his tracks. However, since no one had any proof, no one spoke out loud. The realization that he was being held responsible for the enemy's actions sent the Raikage into a seething fury. Not only did he lose more than 260 capable ninjas, he even had to take the blame for Hiruzen's actions, and the worst part was that he couldn't defend himself. To defend himself, he would first have to admit the fact that Kumogaku-rei was mining illegally inside another country. So he couldn't do anything but suffer in silence. While the countries were busy discussing the mine, Fujin was busy training. He had met up with Tamatis once but spent the remaining time on training. In a week's time, he had already learnt Iron Skin Jutsu and Bringer of Darkness Genjutsu. However, he hit a wall. Fujin was sitting on the training ground with his back against a tree. His chakra was almost exhausted. A frown could be seen on his face. He analyzed. "What is the issue? I have been trying this jutsu for over a week but have made no progress at all." After learning the 2 jutsus, Fujin began learning Wild Lion's Mane jutsu. This was the same jutsu that Jiraiya frequently used. It could grow hair and allow the caster to freely manipulate them. Unfortunately, Fujin was stuck at the very first step. No matter how he manipulated his chakra, he couldn't get his hair to grow at all. Fujin analyzed a lot before sighing. "It's no use. I guess that there are more complexities involved before I am able to use this jutsu. I'm not sure what those are, but the most likely possibility could be that I would need a medical ninja to artificially enhance whatever promotes hair growth. Only then I might be able to cast this jutsu." Considering that Jiraiya had Tsunade and Orochimaru in his team, it could explain why he could do it easily, and why I haven't seen anyone else use this jutsu. Fujin let out another sigh. It looks like my plans to have a triple-layered defense with Rashomon. Wild Lion's Mane and Iron Skin will need to be stalled, though it's fine. Just Rashomon and Iron Skin combined with Wind Jutsus is quite strong. Fujin decided to give up on Wild Lion's Mane and Needle Jizo Jutsus for the time being. He left for home and decided to continue learning Lightning Jutsus. The next day, he did his physical workout and returned to his basement. He made a few hand signs. Lightning appeared on his body and immediately transformed into needles. He made another hand sign, and over 100 electric needles were launched from his body. Fujin analyzed. Good, L will have to improve the speed of this jutsu, but otherwise it is learnt. Now I have only 2 jutsus to practice. Unfortunately, one will require a partner or at least a victim, so I can't learn it for now. It leaves just one, though this one is very strong. Fujin made a shadow clone. The clone positioned himself opposite Fujin. Fujin weaved hand signs. The air around Fujin suddenly became heavy as he began exerting a huge amount of chakra. He extended his right arm ahead and pointed his index and middle finger at his clone. Lightning appeared around his 2 fingers, and a huge portion of his chakra began transforming into lightning and gathered in his 2 fingers. After 40 seconds, around 24% of Fujin's chakra had been transformed into lightning and concentrated in his hands. He shouted. Now his shadow clone immediately bit his thumb, making it bleed, made a snake hand seal, and slammed his hands on the ground. A summoning jutsu Rashomon. At the same time, Fujin launched an arrow made of lightning straight at the Rashomon gate. The arrow hit the gate and created a huge explosion. The force of the explosion immediately pushed Fujin backwards. Fujin covered his face and tried to look at the spot of the explosion. Chakra gathered in his eye as he tried to observe through the intense light. He couldn't help but think, the scroll was right. Luckily I took the warning seriously and decided to use Rashomon. Otherwise, my house would have been heavily damaged despite all the seals. After a few seconds the explosion died down. Fujin could see the Rashomon gate. It still stood, but its surface was filled with cracks. Fujin stepped closer and observed the gate. His eyes widened as he realized, incredible, the cracks go up to halfway in the gate. It's even more impressive compared to the damage from my vacuum cannon. Fujin analyzed for a minute and concluded, in terms of pure destructive power, this is my most powerful jutsu, but in terms of usability, it is one of the worst. Though the destructive power is high, the chakra it needs is more than 10 times that of the vacuum cannon jutsu. Worse is the preparation time. The scroll stated that this time can be reduced with training, but it will still take a long time. At the very least, this jutsu will require 5 seconds of charging time, so in a normal situation, it will be quite useless. I guess this jutsu is most effective when there are teammates to provide that time. But considering that I plan to use lightning jutsus while in disguise, I don't have that option, though I guess that I could still use shadow clones for that purpose. Fujin analyzed the pros and cons of the jutsu and decided, if I train this jutsu, my training will be over in 4 attempts. I won't be able to train anymore on that day, so though it looks cool, it will be harmful. If I waste months trying to slowly master this jutsu, I can think about practicing this jutsu once my chakra has multiplied a few times over. For now, I should focus on mastering other jutsus. Having made his decision, Fujin decided to master the Iron Skin Jutsu. Chapter 216 Bounty. Fujin decided, I need to reduce the hand signs required for this jutsu. No, I want to eliminate them. Only then this jutsu will show its true worth. In addition, I also need to learn how to apply this jutsu to just one body part. It will save chakra and increase the versatility of this jutsu. Fujin was about to begin practicing when his doorbell rang. He answered the door. It was a messenger asking him to visit Hiruzen. Fujin flickered to Hiruzen's office. Since the door was open, he just walked in. Hiruzen noticed Fujin and handed him a book and said, check this. Hiruzen had already opened the page for Fujin to see. Fujin was surprised to see what he did. However, soon a smile appeared on his face as he thought, 20 million already, not bad at all, though I guess that this is more due to Hiruzen's rumors rather than my achievements. Hiruzen looked at Fujin's smile and coughed to get Fujin's attention. He said, that isn't a good thing, Fujin. Fujin had a wry smile on his face on hearing his remark. He thought, shit, that fight with Dari makes me want to fight more such fights. I need to meditate and eliminate that thought. They may feel fun but are super harmful to my life. Fujin said, yes, but I don't need to be worried inside our village, right? Hiruzen nodded. There hasn't ever been any incident of anyone claiming bounties inside Konoha. You don't need to worry about that. Fujin nodded and said, "All right, I won't be leaving Konoha until you think I am ready." Hiruzen replied, "Good, you can return to your training." Fujin thanked him politely and left. Since he didn't need to worry about it for the time being, Fujin ignored the bounty for now. If his speculations were right, Hiruzen would keep him among the Ambu for years. During this time, his identity will stay hidden. By the time he quit the Ambu, he was confident that his strength would be in a different league. When Fujin reached his house, he saw that there were 5 children his age waiting outside his house. He wondered, did these guys learn tree walking? The group of 5 orphans had arrived outside Fujin's house a few minutes earlier. They saw the tag that said that Fujin wasn't at home. Tatsuya sighed. "It looks like he is on a mission. Our exams are less than 2 months away." The others nodded. Daisuke said, "I hope he returns soon." At that instant, Fujin snuck up behind them and asked, "Who should return soon?" They didn't expect someone to appear behind them suddenly and were startled. They quickly moved away from Fujin. Fujin chuckled at seeing their reactions. He asked, "Are you guys done with the tree walking exercise?" Everyone nodded. Daisuke said, "We all managed to learn it last Wednesday." Fujin nodded and said, "Good. How much time is left for the exams?" Daisuke said, "We have just around 7 weeks. Fujin thought for a bit and concluded, "Just 7 weeks. That's not enough time to teach them what I had planned for them. And once they graduate, I doubt they would have much of a reason to come to UNC." Seeing Fujin in a thought made them nervous. After all, their future was online. Tatsuya asked, "Fujin, why are you thinking so hard?" Fujin looked at them and decided, "Leave it. It's not my job to guide them thoroughly. It depends on their fate and will. I'll just point them in the right direction." Fujin said, "I had initially planned to teach you guys a few more things. Unfortunately, I don't think you have enough time. So I'll just tell you what my plans were. If you have enough time, you can try to work on it. Otherwise, you can just focus on the 3 ninjutsus needed to pass the academy." Fujin's initial words increased their worries a lot. They took a few seconds to process what Fujin had said. Suddenly their eyes widened. Buniro asked, "Do you mean that we can pass the exam?" Fujin nodded and said, "As I said, these exercises have improved your control a lot. So learning those 3 basic jutsu should be very easy now. Just train hard and you will get it down rather quickly." They became excited on hearing Fujin's words. However, Buniro was intrigued by Fujin's words. He asked, "What were your plans for us, Fujin?" Fujin said, "I was planning to have you improve your chakra control more. The next step would be to walk on water. Water isn't hard and stable like a tree, so it will be much more Fujin was cut off as Ryoma exclaimed in excitement, "We can walk on water." Fujin nodded and continued, "But as I said, it is difficult to learn. Another plan I had was to make you learn at least 1 elemental jutsu. If you guys master the 3 jutsus quickly and have time, buy a chakra paper from any weapon store. It will tell you what your chakra nature is. Then go to the section E of the library and pick up a simple jutsu of that nature and learn it. It will improve your rank in the exam considerably." The orphans quickly thanked Fujin for his guidance. They asked a few queries which were resolved by Fujin before leaving. Fujin saw their backs as they left. His smile faded away as he thought, "Not everyone in this group is serious about training. Otherwise, they would have been done with these basic exercises a long time ago. But the others in the group waited for that person, probably due to their friendship, and hence stalled their progress as well." Fujin couldn't help but analyze their situation. On one hand is their long friendship, which they probably relish a lot. On the other hand, if they cut off the slackers, they can progress much faster and increase their strength. That's a rough dilemma to face. Fujin turned around and headed into his home. Though many would struggle to decide between those two, Fujin had no doubts. In my previous world, success could be compared with the amount of money you had or earned. It didn't matter if one earned a bit less and enjoyed more time with family and friends and enjoyed your life. I would have chosen family and friends over money any day, but in this world, power reigns supreme. Sacrificing power to stay with friends who hold you back is foolish. After all, that little bit of power could be the difference between life and death. Of course, there is no need to terminate all friendships. They just have to train with the ones who train at the same pace and intensity as themselves or train solo. They can still remain friends, but have to keep training out of their friendship. Though I guess I too share a bit of the blame, as I asked those 5 to come to me together instead of individually, as I didn't want to spend a lot of time on them. If I had told them to come whenever they reach the assigned goals, perhaps the result would have been different. Still, this is a good thing to know. One slacker can pull the whole group down. When I create an organization, such people will have to either be kept out or kept away from those who want to work harder and get stronger. And I shouldn't put some stupid restrictions like coming to me at the same time just for my convenience. Instead, making it a competition between them will give me much better results. I can even add some rewards similar to how Hiruzen rewarded me. That way everyone would work hard for the reward and also due to peer pressure. Fujin ended his train of thought and continued his training. 2 weeks later, Fujin was breathing heavily. He had 4 shadow clones around him. A smile could be seen on his face. He thought, finally, I have reduced the number of hand seals to perform Iron Skin Jutsu to just 1. And I can harden any part of my body I want to. He took a deep breath and dispelled his clones. He sat against a tree as he received their memories and experience. He analyzed. As I kept practicing this jutsu, the amount of chakra needed to sustain it dropped a lot. So I could use shadow clones to speed up my training. Otherwise, I might have needed around a month and a half to master this jutsu. Anyways, now that I have this jutsu down properly, it's time to try that. Fujin sat in a meditative pose. He grabbed a soldier pill and ate it. He meditated until his chakra reserves were back to full once again. His eyes opened. Determination and excitement could be seen in it, along with a hint of fear. He stood up and weaved hand signs. Boar dog bird monkey ramp. He slammed his hands on the ground. Chapter 217 The Wolf Valley. Fujin weaved the hand signs and slammed his hands on the ground. A summoning jutsu. Fujin immediately disappeared from Konoha. The scenery around Fujin changed instantly. He was in the air and began falling. Fujin landed on his feet as he thought. So this is how space-time travel feels. I kinda assumed that it would be uncomfortable or weird. Instead, it just feels like flickering. As soon as he landed, a lot of eyes turned towards him. Fujin too looked around himself. His chakra field was already spread out. He thought, so I am in the land of wolves, huh? Now, are they friendly or aggressive? Fujin had landed in a wolf valley. It was a huge place surrounded by massive mountains. Fujin sensed hundreds of wolves in his chakra field, and he could see that his chakra field didn't cover even 1% of the total area of the valley. The spot where Fujin landed had 9 wolves around him. They looked at Fujin with curiosity as he appeared out of nowhere. However, the curiosity didn't last long. A few seconds later, a wolf howled loudly and pounced on Fujin. Immediately, the other wolves also howled and pounced on Fujin. Fujin easily dodged them and asked, "Who is your leader?" Unfortunately, he didn't get any response as they kept attacking him. Fujin sighed. Great, they don't understand human language. His expression became grim as he sensed the hundreds of wolves in his chakra field running towards him. He thought, I hope at least some of them understand human language. He kept dodging without attacking back. He was afraid that the leaders of the pack might treat him as an enemy if he attacked back. More importantly, he wasn't aware of how strong the leaders would be. If they were anything like the toads or the snakes, it would bring a catastrophe on him if he killed them indiscriminately. Fujin kept dodging until the number of wolves surrounding him became too high. With no other option, he flickered away. Unfortunately, the entire place was crawling with wolves. No matter where he flickered, he would be swarmed by wolves in a few seconds. Luckily, none of them could use chakra, so Fujin wasn't in any danger. Suddenly, Fujin's attention was attracted. He sensed a wolf pack heading towards him. Every single wolf in this pack had a much higher chakra. It was as high as a normal chunin would have. In addition, their size was much larger than a normal wolf. As soon as that pack appeared, the normal wolves cleared the path. They ran straight towards Fujin. A smile appeared on Fujin's face as he thought, finally, I was getting bored, and they should understand human speech. The new wolf pack didn't waste any time attacking Fujin. However, Fujin disappeared from their sight. The lead wolf suddenly howled as Fujin was standing on his back. Fujin stated, I am not here to fight. So, can any of you bring me to your leader? Unfortunately, he didn't get any response as the other wolves jumped at him. Their claws ripped through Fujin, and their jaws took huge bites. Both their claws and jaws were enhanced with chakra. However, the injured Fujin disappeared in a cloud of smoke. This confused the wolves. Fujin, who was hiding underground, thought, okay, so they don't speak or don't want to speak. Fujin could sense more wolf packs with higher chakra heading towards him. He made shadow clones. Each of the clones headed towards the incoming packs and tried conversing with them. Unfortunately, none of the wolf packs talked back to him. They just kept attacking him like wild beasts. Fujin's clones didn't bother putting up a fight after getting no response. They just let the wolf packs kill them. As Fujin received everyone's memories, he sighed. Looks like they don't talk at all. I'll hide here until someone who can talk appears. The wolves knew that Fujin wasn't dead. They kept searching but couldn't find even a trace of Fujin. It was as if he never arrived there. After half an hour, another wolf pack arrived. These wolves all had Junin levels of chakra, and they were very large. They were all as big as a truck, and the wolf leading the pack was larger than the rest by almost 50. As soon as they entered Fujin's chakra field, they sensed that they were being sensed. They immediately looked in the direction Fujin was hiding and ran towards him. However, 3 shadow clones suddenly appeared in their path. The wolves stopped. One of Fujin's clones said, "I am not here to fight, I came here to sign a summoning contract." The wolves stopped their aggressive posture and relaxed a bit. Fujin's clones were relieved as well. Finally, someone who understands the language. However, at the very next second, the gigantic wolves opened their mouths and exhaled strong winds at Fujin's clones. The clones were on their guard. One immediately used infinite breakthrough jutsu to counter the attack. The winds clashed against each other and formed a small hurricane, which soon began dispersing. The gaze of Fujin's clones changed. They decided, talking is useless. Either these guys will just keep attacking, or this is a test to see my martial might. They saw as the wolves ran into the hurricane to reach the clones. Their heavy bodies meant that the hurricane couldn't stop them. Immediately, all 3 shadow clones fired vacuum bullets into the hurricane. The bullets ripped through the hurricane and reached the unsuspecting wolves. 6 wolves were hit by it. Though Fujin had decided to fight, he didn't want to cause a massacre. The vacuum bullets hit the sides of the wolf and cut through the surface of their flesh. All 6 wolves had a 12-meter-long deep slash on one of their sides. They howled in pain and ran away from Fujin's clones. However, the remaining wolves made it through the hurricane to attack Fujin's clones. However, as soon as they made it to the opposite side, his clones made a hand seal. Their fists turned black and became very hard. At the same time, chakra became visible around their fists. They flickered on top of the wolves and punched their head with their full strength. The sudden impact on the skulls immediately made them lose consciousness. The clones flickered multiple times and knocked out all of them with ease. They couldn't help but think, though their chakra is high, their fighting style is very lousy. That's disappointing. I hope that there are better ones in the valley who know Sage Mode. Otherwise it will be too disappointing. Seeing the bigger wolves knocked out or running injured silenced the remaining wolves. Fujin expected the weaker wolves to run away or call for stronger reinforcements. However, his guess was wrong. Every single wolf around him howled and rushed blindly at his clones. The clones sighed at their disappointing intelligence. The 3 clones stood with their backs to each other and began preparing the same jutsu. As soon as the wolves reached within arm's distance, all 3 clones used the jutsu, Wind Release Triple Infinite Breakthrough Jutsu, in an instant. High-speed winds spread in all directions. The wolves who were rushing forward were stopped. Instead, the winds pushed them back. Many wolves tried holding onto the ground. However, eventually, all the nearby wolves were sent flying through the air. Even the unconscious bodies of the giant wolves were sent flying. The clones looked at the sight and thought, if we had made these winds sharper, this whole valley would have been covered in blood by now. Painful howls spread throughout the valley as the wolves crashed on the ground. A few of the weaker wolves ended up dying due to the impact. However, the ones who were alive got up and charged at Fujin's clones once again. In addition, more wolf packs kept joining them. The clones sighed and fought back. 2 days later, Fujin was hiding underground. However, his expression wasn't good and his chakra was very low. Fujin was still in the wolf valley. He kept making shadow clones and sending them to fight for 2 whole days. The entire valley was covered by the bodies of wolves. Almost all of them were injured. Quite a few were dead as well. Unfortunately, there was no end to the wolf tide. During these 2 days, Fujin's clones had fought over 100,000 wolves. However, not a single wolf that attacked Fujin's clones for over 2 days had the skill to even injure him. On the other hand, any wind jutsu would result in a huge number of casualties to them. His clones would fight until they ran out of chakra, and Fujin would create new ones to replace them. However, after 2 days of fighting, Fujin's chakra finally hit rock bottom. Even soldier pills couldn't generate chakra at enough speed. Fujin sighed. It looks hopeless. Though the number of wolves is very high, there are no high-level wolves. My clones have scouted every single mountain around the valley in these 2 days, but I never found any wolf interested in talking. So either these guys have no brains or their leaders are hiding somewhere and don't think that I am someone worthy enough to make them show themselves. Of course, this could still be a test, but my chakra is almost dry. Chapter 218 Bad Luck. Fujin finally gave up on the wolves. He made a hand sign and ended his jutsu. In the next second, he appeared back in the training ground. Exhausted, he went home and took a long rest. A few days later, Fujin once again tried his luck. A summoning jutsu. Fujin disappeared from his basement. He looked around and the scene made his skin crawl. He couldn't help but curse. First that never-ending wolf tide, and now this. No wonder so few have the summoning jutsu. It's fucking dangerous. As soon as Fujin appeared, he saw innumerable mosquitoes around him. He couldn't even estimate their number. He nervously asked, "Do you have a leader who would be willing to discuss a summoning contract?" Fujin thought, "Though I don't like mosquitoes. They have a lot of potential. If I can summon millions of mosquitoes, I can have similar skills as the Aburumi clan, without having to host insects in my body. However, I first need to see the effectiveness of these mosquitoes. For starters, how much chakra would it require to summon a sufficient number of mosquitoes? And do they have poisons like the bugs, or do they have other means of attack?" Unfortunately for Fujin, the mosquitoes just dived at him without exchanging any words. Fujin sighed, expecting such a response. Winds began flowing all around him. A dome of wind formed around Fujin, which spun at a high speed. The mosquitoes attacked the dome and were ripped into small pieces as soon as they entered it. Their remains were tossed outside right away. Hundreds of mosquitoes died every second. Fujin sighed once again. To another suicidal bunch. Fujin lost all interest in the group. He made a hand sign and cancelled the summoning jutsu and returned to his basement. He muttered, "No wonder so few ninjas have summons. If most of the summons are like them, it will be waste of time and risky at the same time." He hadn't wasted much chakra against the mosquitoes. He used the summoning jutsu once again and disappeared. This time, he landed in a rocky area. There were huge boulders around Fujin, and on top of those boulders were hyenas. Fujin was standing in the center, and there were 8 hyenas surrounding him. Fujin looked at them and wondered, "So will these guys talk?" This time, Fujin didn't have to wait for long to know the answer. All 8 hyenas stood up and stared at Fujin. One of them exclaimed, "A human popped up out of thin air." Another hyena licked his lips and said, "Yeah, we didn't even have to go hunting for him." Another said, "Since this is a free meal, he should be delicious, right?" Fujin was relieved to hear them speak, but soon his left eye twitched. He said, "I was trying to sign a summoning contract. Who is your leader?" The first hyena that had spoken asked excitedly, "Do you mean that we can summon humans like you and not have to hunt for a meal ever?" Fujin's left eye twitched again. He sighed and said, "Just take me to your leader." The hyena said, "Sure." However, at the next second, he pounced on Fujin, having dealt with 2 annoying groups. Fujin was high on alert and low on patience. He dodged and kicked the hyena away. Surprisingly, the hyena flipped in the air and landed on his legs on a boulder. He exclaimed, "This one fights well, brothers. We will have a good hunt tonight." Fujin muttered, "Great, another group of battle maniacs." He spread his chakra field. Surprisingly, there were only 16 hyenas in a 1.3-kilometer radius. Fujin wondered, is this a small pack, or is the territory of these hyenas so huge that only 16 live in such a large area? As soon as the hyena yelled, the remaining 8 arrived and encircled Fujin. However, none of them attacked Fujin. Fujin prepared himself for another fight. However, his eyes widened. Lightning began appearing on the bodies of every hyena. It flowed on their bodies. Fujin thought, "What the hell, they can use lightning." In the very next second, Fujin flickered. A paw pierced into the back of the afterimage he left. Fujin's face became grim. They are too fast." All 16 hyenas ran towards him at a very high speed. Their speed wasn't any lower than the speed at which Fujin flickered. Fujin kept flickering to prevent himself from being surrounded. At the same time, one sword appeared in his left hand. Without looking, he slashed it at the hyena on his left. The hyena didn't bother dodging as the sword was quite far from him. However, his eyes widened as he saw a sword slash coming at him. He immediately got out of the way and barely dodged the sword slash. Unfortunately, that wasn't all. The sword slash was surrounded by sharp winds that hit the hyena. The winds cut into his flesh, making him bleed all over. The hyena was enraged and began chasing Fujin once again. He shouted, "Be careful of his sword slashes." The other hyenas made a note of it mentally and kept attacking. Fujin also observed the hyena as he was on a run. So the lightning just increases their speed and perhaps their attack too. Their defenses aren't enhanced. However, his hide is too tough for a hyena. Normal attacks won't have much effect on it. He kept running while attacking with flying slashes. Fujin was very impressed by the hyenas. They are good, very good. They have excellent coordination, very high speed, and a strong attack. And they keep fighting despite injuries without letting them affect their speed. With the addition of their cunningness, they might just be the perfect summons. Fujin swung his sword towards the rock below him and sent a flying slash towards it. The slash cut the boulder and sent dust and small pieces of rocks flying towards the hyenas. Due to their high speed, the hyenas couldn't dodge and ran into the rocks and dust and were blinded momentarily due to the dust. Fujin used this opportunity to flicker a far distance from them and stopped moving. The hyenas took a couple of seconds to get rid of the dust in their eyes and chased after Fujin once again. Fuji stood on a boulder as he saw the hyenas come at him. They moved so fast that if a normal person saw, he wouldn't see anything except lightning flashing across the boulders. Fujin built up around 5% of his chakra. Wind release infinite breakthrough jutsu. Fujin exhaled a massive and strong wind at the hyenas. Seeing their bloodlust, Fujin didn't hold back. The attack left deep cuts in the ground as it moved towards the hyenas. The hyenas saw the strong winds heading towards them and barked loudly. However, to Fujin's ears, they sounded like cackling laughter. Fujin was surprised as all the hyenas let out an electric wave that clashed with Fujin's attack. Fujin had the elemental advantage. However, he was facing 16 opponents by himself. Both attacks cancelled each other. The hyenas continued their hunt and moved right through the dust raised by the clash of their previous attacks. Fujin used the smoke screen to fire air bullets at the hyenas. As soon as the hyenas exited the smoke screen, they felt air bullets heading towards them. They immediately dodged. However, they were too close to the attack. 2 air bullets hit the legs of a couple of hyenas and left a hole through it. Another 8 air bullets left cuts on the hyenas. Only 5 hyenas were completely unharmed. They immediately went on the attack while the others took time to breathe. A hyena appeared in front of Fujin and swung his paws at his head. At the same time, another 2 hyenas appeared on Fujin's side. Fujin moved backwards as defending would mean that those 2 hyenas would attack him. The paw hit the boulder on which Fujin was standing and completely destroyed it. As Fujin moved back, he swung his sword at them and launched another sword slash. The hyenas immediately jumped to dodge. However, Fujin fired air bullets at that very instant at the hyenas who were airborne. This time, the hyenas weren't unaware of the threat. They opened their mouths and fired small lightning balls at the incoming air bullets. The attacks cancelled each other out. Fujin furrowed his eyebrows. I will run out of chakra at this rate, and they aren't allowing me any time to cancel my summoning jutsu and return back to Konoha. As he was thinking, one of the hyenas, who was earlier injured, appeared at Fujin's right and pounced on him. Fujin saw as his lightning-enhanced paw moved towards his body. At the same time, the 5 hyenas facing him also pressed on the attack. Fujin extended his right arm towards the incoming paw. As his hand moved forward, chakra appeared in front of his palm. It took the shape of a ball and began rotating at a very high speed. At the same time, chakra flowed erratically through the sword in his left hand as he swung it at the hyenas coming at him. The hyenas expected another flying slash, however this time no slash was sent flying. Instead, strong winds were generated that were incredibly sharp and spread in all directions in front of Fujin. The hyenas noticed the deep cuts the winds left in the ground and were terrified. They immediately ran in the opposite direction. The winds lost their power after traveling 25 meters, but that was sufficient time for Fujin. The paw and the race engine clashed. The hyena expected to crush the bull and the human as well. However, the race engine easily overpowered the paw. The lightning around the paw dissipated as the race engine hit it. The hyena let out a painful howl as the race engine hit. The momentum of the hyena carried it into the race engine. The race engine caused his leg to bend towards its stomach. Fujin slammed the race engine into his stomach and sent the hyena backwards along with the race engine. After moving for a couple of meters, the race engine exploded. The hyena's skin was the thinnest in his belly area. The explosion ripped through the skin and blew his internal organs. Blood and flesh hit the rocks behind the hyena. When the smoke cleared, the hyena's dead body could be seen on the ground. His once solid stomach had been ripped open, exposing the shattered remnants of its internal organs to the elements. The flesh around the stomach hung loosely like a torn and deflated bag. The gruesome sight made the remaining hyenas shudder in revulsion. They all looked at each other. Fujin noticed it and prepared himself for an even fiercer confrontation. However, his eyes widened and a stunned expression could be seen on his face as he saw the hyena's action. Chapter 219. This world is freakishly scary. Fujin's eyes widened and a stunned expression could be seen on his face as he saw the hyena's actions. After looking at each other, every hyena nodded and looked at Fujin with a fierce expression. However, at the very next moment, every single hyena escaped in different directions as fast as they could move at the same time. Merely in a couple of seconds they escaped Fujin's range of sight, and soon after they escaped Fujin's chakra field, leaving him standing alone with the remains of a dead hyena. After a few seconds of disbelief, Fujin sighed and muttered, "Such shameless beasts." Despite what he said, he couldn't help but think that they would have been the perfect summons for him. He looked at the dead hyena and thought, "It looks like there are only these 16 hyenas here. The mountains shouldn't have any more hyenas, even if they do. Considering that I have killed one of them, I don't think I'd be able to sign a contract." He sealed the dead body of the hyena in a scroll while thinking, "In my previous life, I recall reading a lot of fantasy books that stated that eating the meat of strong beasts was very helpful for developing a stronger physique and improving aptitude or energy. I wonder if it also applies here. I know eating Kuromo's meat can provide a lot of benefits. I wonder if the same also applies to summoning animals. It'd be very helpful if my flesh became as sturdy as his and my lightning affinity improved." He made a hand sign and cancelled his jutsu and returned to his basement. He left his house and went to a store from where he had previously bought recipes. The shopkeeper looked at him and politely asked, "How can I help you?" Fujin asked, "Do you have a recipe for cooking hyenas?" The old shopkeeper looked at Fujin with a weird expression. Fujin ignored it and asked, "Do you?" The shopkeeper replied, "Wait a few minutes." He began searching through his records and finally found what Fujin was looking for. After searching for the book, he returned and handed it to Fujin and said, "Surprisingly, I do have one. It also involves details of how to properly clean it." Fujin thanked the old man and paid for the book before leaving. He cleaned and prepared the hyena's flesh for a few hours before cooking some of it and storing the rest in the fridge. As he ate, he noticed, there is not much difference in taste as compared with goat meat." Fujin spent the next few days resting and eating the hyena's meat. However, he was disappointed as he didn't notice any change after 3 days. He thought, "What a bummer, I haven't felt any improvement in my physique or the power of my lightning jutsus. I guess only the flesh of tailed beasts will provide benefits, though it makes sense I suppose. I doubt I am the first one to eat an animal that can use chakra and an element. If it did provide any benefits, this would have been common knowledge, and every clan would be procuring such meat to strengthen themselves. I'm sure summoning animals would have already gone extinct by now due to everyone's greed." Having had enough rest, Fujin prepared himself for another attempt to get a summon. He ate a soldier pill and used the summoning jutsu. He disappeared from his basement. Unlike his previous 3 attempts where Fujin appeared a bit high in the air, this time he felt something around him. He felt a massive pressure on him, and his clothes and body got wet instantly. Fujin opened his eyes to see that he was underwater. In front of him was a giant wall or an underwater mountain. Multiple small and colorful fishes were swimming around him. Fujin immediately held his breath and cursed in his mind, "Shit." He spread his chakra field to see how deep he was in the water. His chakra field spread to its max limit. Fujin's eyes widened in terror as he looked at the wall in front of him. He realized, this isn't a hill, it's a fucking whale, a fucking 200-meter-long whale. Despite his chakra field spreading for 1.3 kilometers in all directions, Fujin's chakra field didn't escape the water. Realizing how bad his situation was, he immediately weaved hand signs. As he did, he noticed another giant whale swimming towards him. The small fish that were around Fujin immediately began running away. However, the giant whale opened its mouth and a strong suction force was felt by Fujin. The water, the fish, and even Fujin himself were sucked towards the whale's massive mouth. At the last moment, Fujin disappeared and returned to his basement. He dropped to his knees and began breathing heavily as water fell from his clothes and body on the floor. After taking a few deep breaths, he sat down and muttered, "So freaking scary." He took deep breaths and calmed himself down and analyzed. No wonder so few have summons. If encounters like this one are common, then unless the summoner is a formidable ninja, surviving will be very difficult. If I had appeared there half a minute later, then I'd be sucked into the whale's mouth right when I appeared there. Fujin immediately began doubting himself. He thought, should I still try to get a summon by myself? At the current rate, the risks of trying to get a summon seem to far outweigh the benefits of getting it. After all, this time I was sent to such depths inside the ocean. What if I am sent inside a volcano or something very poisonous? Fujin began weighing his options. Despite the risks, getting a summon would be incredibly helpful for him. Especially as his chakra kept growing, he wondered, should I instead try to get a summoning contract from existing summoners? But whom? Snakes and toads will be very difficult to get, as I have no contact with Jiraiya or any snake summoner. The only two who I know decently well are Renjiro and Hiruzen. but Renjiro's sloth isn't very powerful. More importantly, he hasn't given any indication to pass me the summoning contract. As for Hiruzen, it is even more unlikely. If I could become Tsunade's student, then I could get her summons, but even that is quite improbable. Not to mention she won't be in the village for many years. Fujin analyzed his options but didn't find anything promising. He sighed and decided, there is no option. I have to keep trying it until I am successful. However, I have to take more precautions. It'd be a waste of a life if I get attacked as soon as I go there and can't do anything to resist. He began planning how to defend himself properly. After forming a good enough plan, he went to the ninja weapons shop. After searching for a bit, he bought 2 metallic bracelets, 2 metal anklets, 1 metal torque, 1 metal headband and 4 flexible bands that were reinforced with metal. He returned home and began inscribing barrier seals on each of the items he bought. When he was satisfied, he created a shadow clone. The clone began equipping the items. He put the bracelets on each of his wrists just behind the braces. The anklets went above his ankles while the flexible bands were put on his thighs and biceps. The remaining 2 went around his neck and forehead. The clone looked at Fujin and nodded. In the next second, Fujin shot a vacuum bullet at the clone. The clone instantly made the confrontation hand seal. A barrier appeared around him. The bullet hit the barrier. The barrier stood sturdy, however. The impact of the bullet sent him backwards for a few meters. Fujin nodded satisfactorily and asked, "Did you feel any pain?" The clone shook his head and said, "No, but if the attack is very strong, then the momentum will be passed on to you, so be prepared for that." Fujin nodded and dispersed the clone. The bands fell on the ground. Fujin put it on and used the summoning jutsu once again. As soon as he appeared in the summoning area, Fujin made the confrontation hand seal. A barrier appeared around him. He immediately followed it up with the hand signs of ending the summoning jutsu and observed his surroundings. If he felt something was wrong, he would return instantly. Fujin watched in confusion as his chakra field spread through the area. The first thing he noticed was the small hill in front of him. The bottom of the hill had an entrance like a cavern entrance. 2 imposing, jagged protrusions hung in front of him, like menacing fangs, as if daring him to enter. Suddenly, a strong wind was exhaled from the cave entrance on Fujin's barrier, pushing him backwards by a few meters. His eyes widened in surprise and shock once again, as his chakra field covered the hill in front of him. He couldn't help but gulp his saliva and mutter, "This world is freakishly scary." Chapter 220 A Special State. Fujin nervously observed the beast in front of him while maintaining his hand seal. He was prepared to disappear in the blink of an eye as he was looking up. An eyelid opened and stared right at Fujin. The beast saw Fujin and thought, "I sensed a chakra field engulfing me. Looks like it was this human." The beast observed Fujin and wondered, why is he riling up his chakra and maintaining a barrier? He didn't get up and spoke in a rough and jagged voice. "A human? We haven't had one visit us in a while. Why are you here, little one?" Fujin sighed in relief. Finally someone who talks and is reasonable. Though the beast's voice was painful to hear, Fujin didn't mind as he finally could have a conversation with an animal. However, he didn't let his guard down and replied, "I am here to sign a summoning contract." The beast observed him and said, "I see, but why are you maintaining a barrier?" Fujin let out a sigh and answered, "I have been using summoning jutsu blindly to find the right summon for me. Unfortunately, I had some very bad experiences." The beast was surprised to hear the reason. Suddenly, he began laughing out loud in amusement. The sound of his laughter echoed through the mountains with a deafening roar, as if 1,000 thunderbolts were crashing down upon the earth at once. Sweat gathered on Fujin's forehead as his barrier trembled. He cursed, "Shit, without the barrier, I might have gone deaf." His excitement about the thought of signing a summoning contract with such a strong beast quelled down as he began worrying about his life instead. After laughing, the beast stood up. Fujin watched in awe as he saw his majestic body. He was a behemoth of a beast, standing at an astonishing height of almost 20 meters tall. His muscles bulged under a coat of thick matted fur that bristled in the wind. His sharp, powerful claws were the size of longswords, capable of rending through flesh and bone with ease, but it was the beast's jaws that were truly terrifying, gaping open to reveal teeth that were larger than Fujin's whole body. Each tooth was razor-sharp and curved. Like a scythe made of ivory, the ground shook beneath its massive paws as it stood up. This was a predator unlike any other, a true apex predator. Fujin gulped once again as he recognized the beast, a saber-tooth. The beast said, "Drop your barrier and introduce yourself." "Little one, don't worry, I won't eat you. You won't even fit the gap between my teeth." He let out a cackling laughter. Fujin agreed with his analysis. Though his barrier was strong, he had doubts about whether it could withstand an assault from the behemoth in front of him. He deactivated the barrier and stopped maintaining the hand sign and his chakra for escaping back. However, he was still alert and prepared to activate the barrier immediately. Despite doubting its reliability, he said, "I am Suzuki Fujin from Konohagaka." The saber-twa observed Fujin and said, "Good name, it suits you well. I am Ryu, the son of Tatsu. Your strongest affinity is wind nature manipulation, right?" Fujin was surprised. He wondered, how did he sense that? Was it just my name, or does he have the ability to sense chakra affinity? He nodded and said, "Yes, it is my strongest affinity." Ryu said, "Good, having a strong wind affinity is one of the necessary conditions to be able to sign a contract with us." Fujin thought, "Lucky me, my other elements are lacking a lot right now." Ryu added, "Of course, that isn't the only criterion. Climb on my head, I'll carry you to our sage. She will determine whether you can sign a contract or not." Fujin's attention was immediately drawn to the word sage. He thought with excitement, "Great, they should be able to use senjutsu." He nodded and used wind instantaneous body jutsu to appear on top of Ryu's head. Ryu said, "Hold on tight." Fujin held on tight to his fur as he expected Ryu to run at high speeds. However, Ryu didn't move. Fujin heard some noise behind him and turned his head to check it. The sight he saw left his eyes wide open and jaw hanging. Ryu's fur moved, and two gigantic pairs of wings appeared on his back, the wings fully spread, displaying the immense wingspan, which was easily 4 times his height. Ryu flapped his wings and the gigantic creature lifted off in the air. Fujin gulped his saliva as he thought, since when did saber-twa gain wings? As Ryu took off into the sky, Fujin felt a sense of awe and wonder as he looked out at the stunning scenery before him. The mountains stretched out as far as the eye could see, their peaks piercing the clouds above. Below them, a vast forest spread out, with streams and rivers snaking their way through it like veins. For once, Fujin let go of his worries and relaxed. Seeing how strong Ryu was, he knew that he didn't need to play tricks to attack Fujin. A childlike curiosity appeared in Fujin's eyes as he took in the breathtaking view, feeling incredibly blessed and content. Though Fujin had traveled in airplanes in his previous life, the feeling was completely different. In fact, it wasn't even comparable. Ryu's wings beat rhythmically, sending a gentle breeze through Fujin's hair and filling his lungs with fresh air. As Ryu climbed higher, Fujin could see the snow-capped summits of the highest peaks in the distance, their peaks wreathed in wispy clouds that glowed pink and orange in the light of the setting sun. The sky above was a riot of colors, from the deep purples and blues of the horizon to the golden hues of the clouds that drifted lazily overhead. It was a scene of such majesty and beauty that Fujin felt humbled and grateful to be alive to witness it. As Ryu cruised through the skies, Fujin felt a sense of complete relaxation and tranquility. Fujin basked in the peacefulness of the moment and lost himself in thoughts as he began reflecting on his life. He recalled his recent troubles before beginning to reflect on his entire journey in this majestic world. He recalled the schemes he employed, the people he killed, the fun he had and the hard work he put in. Soon he began thinking about his previous life. With the newfound clarity and tranquility, Fujin couldn't help but realize, in my previous life, I always dreamed about having superpowers. I dreamt of going on epic adventures. Now that I have superpowers that I could only dream of in my previous life and have an entire new world to explore, why am I so stressed? A smile appeared on Fujin's face as he closed his eyes. Memories of his past and worries about his future faded away. Replaced with a sense of contentment and joy, he felt a deep connection to everything around him, as though he was becoming one with the natural world. Fujin entered into a special state. His mind was so calm and stable that he could feel the world's energy around him in this state. He lost all sense of time as he enjoyed the comfort of this energy. Ryu, who was enjoying showing off to Fujin, suddenly focused all attention on him. A look of surprise appeared on his giant face as he thought, "What the hell?" Ryu sensed that Fujin had entered into a special state. He analyzed. "What a surprise. I had sensed that he has a very potent affinity to wind. That is why I decided to bring him to our sacred land. This journey was meant to display my might and relax him a bit from his agitated state. But I never imagined that he would be able to connect with nature so easily. Looks like we will have a new summoner after 125 years. Ryu didn't want to disturb Fujin and wake him up from the special state he was in. He maintained a constant speed as he headed towards the tallest mountain. As he moved, he thought in relief and excitement. Great-grandmother, it looks like our pride's ability might finally advance once again after 500 years. he quelled his excitement. Though it will be a long time before he can learn that skill, his chakra reserves are too poor, even the quality of his chakra is lacking. We will need to improve it first, and only then can he have some hope in learning it. As Ryu kept cruising, he moved above the clouds. In front of him was a mountain peak. Fujin finally opened his eyes. He saw the snow-covered peak and was awed by its beauty. Ryu noticed that Fujin had woken up and said, "Welcome to Mount Muteki."